This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Many, Mickey, Pishy.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
Give me a name. Like who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
All right, welcome once again to the Voices of Wrestling Flagship podcast. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, a man who has achieved godlike status, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, what's happening?
I'm ready for you. I think you've been throwing these topics at me for the show opening without warning me first, so I can't do any research, I can't prepare, and I know what your plan is. You want to make me look like a jerk, okay? But I'm ready this week, because I have a feeling I know where you're going.
Yeah, I put it up on Twitter there a little bit, so you probably have it, and that is going to be something we are going to talk about here in a sec. But I did want to bring up one thing that I noticed from this week's from World Wrestling Entertainment, Joe. WWE, you've probably heard of them before. They have a top star, Seth Rollins. Have you heard of Seth Rollins, Mr. Burn It Down?
Burn it down!
So he has turned heel, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Did you see the story that he legit at a house show over the weekend broke his finger? It was his pinky finger, to be fair. So there's some different layers to this that I want to get into a little bit. But he broke his pinky finger, and they said that he couldn't wrestle on Raw. Okay?
Okay,
but they came out with this after Raw. So they came out with this like Tuesday afternoon or something that said that Seth Rollins has suffered a broken finger or whatever, and that's why he was unable to compete on Raw or whatever. And we always talk about how we don't want to feel like the Jim Cornettes of the world, and we don't want to feel like we're just completely lost with the wrestling world anymore. But you have a man that you are turning heel who legit broke his pinky, and he doesn't come out and say, I would wrestle, but I have a broken pinky. I am flabbergasted. This industry, I don't understand this industry anymore. When you have a guy you're about to turn heel, or you're in the midst of turning heel, that legit broke his pinky, and you don't have him come out there in a cast and say, I'd love to wrestle, but I got a broken pinky. I can't go out there. I can't wrestle. Am I lost? Is this like Bizarro World? What are we doing?
Yeah, they were kind of gift wrapped that one.
Oh my God, are you kidding? Like, especially this dude, who his entire heel turn is, you guys don't respect me, you don't care about me, I bust my ass for you and you don't care. The best thing ever would be I busted my ass day and night and you guys didn't give a shit. And guess what? I got a broken pinky finger, so I'm not wrestling for you assholes tonight or whatever. Throws the mic down and you're good. Like, what are we doing? Why? What has happened with wrestling, Joe? Why?
He could wear the little splint on the finger. Right.
And it's like such a nothing injury too, that like you can wrestle with a broken pinky. Like I've broken my pinky toe numerous times, and I just play basketball anyway. I don't stop, and nothing. Your broken pinky doesn't stop you from doing anything. I've broken my hand before, and it's just like whatever. Who cares? Like you just move on. The idea. Oh my God! I gift wrapped for the heel turn. Are you kidding?
Yeah, that's ripe for heel heat.
Oh man, it's just what business is this, Joe? Where that sort of stuff doesn't get used anymore. It's unbelievable.
It is the safe company, and they don't want a competitor out there with a debilitating injury such as a broken pinky, putting himself at risk. So can we really kill him for thinking of wrestler safety first?
Absolutely not. No, they're indeed the safest of the safe companies. But yeah, I just found out from the both ends of that too, were also like WWE legit because of a broken pinky said, no, sir, you cannot wrestle. Like, dude, no, sir, you're off. Like the idea that company told him, A, don't wrestle. And then B, when they realized that he actually did have that problem, didn't say, oh shit, here we go, man. Like, get out there, cut this promo, have the splint, but whatever. It's
Didn't he just work a 10-day, 9-show tour of Europe?
I believe he made
flying directly from Saudi Arabia and then flying directly from that tour to a TV?
I believe so, yes.
If that isn't 100% accurate, it's close to accurate, right? Like that happened to some of the crew.
Yeah. Some of the crew went from Saudi Arabia to Buffalo Well, maybe not actually. Never mind. Sorry, they didn't get to go to Buffalo. Never mind. But some of them got delayed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and didn't go to Buffalo. But then, some of them got home and then had to go right back to a Europe tour like immediately afterwards. So
that was like 11 days with 10 shows or something like that. 1 day off, which they probably spent like on a bus or a short plane ride or something. Right? I'm sure they didn't have time to sightsee, but. Listen, broken pinky, too much. Like you're saying, how do you not take advantage of that, though?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's again, I don't want to sound like we're the grumpy, out of touch guys, but like, come on, are you kidding me? Any other era, that dude comes out in his whole hand wrapped or whatever and shows a doctor's note or whatever. Like, this is like, that's wrestling, man. You know what I mean? That's wrestling. And they got a gift draft and they just didn't do it, so.
Yeah, but you know what? They'd ruin it. They would hire a local actor to play a doctor. And they'd have a doctor out there with them, and the segment would be 27 minutes long, and somebody's music would hit, and then they would both recite pre-written lines to each other. The doctor actor would be atrocious. It would, they would just blow it anyway.
Right.
You know,
or what Seth would say is what every WWE heel says when they turn heel is, I don't owe you any explanation.
Right.
That's my new favorite thing. It's just they come out, their hair's kind of like the Dakota Kai one was pretty fun. I mean, that turn's awesome, by the way. That's actually the exact turn they should have done with her. But it's like they have a book now on those heel turns. It's like, the women start like wearing their hair back or whatever, their hair tied back, like the makeup's a little darker, they got like eyeshadow on, and then they come out and they go, I don't owe you any explanation of why I did what I did. It's like,
let me tell you something about heel Dakota Kai. Lanza likes.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. I like every Dakota Kai, but yeah, that's I get it.
I'm into that. I mean, she's got, like you're saying, like the dark eye, the dark eye makeup now, a little different look.
Well, she's got that pulled back hair, and I'm sure that's what gets Lanza going too a little bit.
Listen,
it's up in some, it's pulled back as far as you could possibly pull it. Yeah, that's
We don't need to slice and dice it. The fact is, it works. Okay, she went up about 2 points on the Lanza meter.
Wow. Okay.
We don't do a horny show.
We don't. We really don't. Yeah. Which is, believe it or not, like people might think we do. I don't know why we get that rep. I can't imagine why. But no, we are not. We are not a horny show usually. So.
No, we never do a horny show. I'm just saying, she looks real good post heel turn. I was slapping the rewind button a few times on the NXT this week, Rich, to take another look at that. That was very impressive.
Which, by the way, that is one of the better heel turns in a long time. And I said that obviously with Kenta being like one of the all-time greats or whatever, but this year has had quite a few good heel turns. And that one was great too, because it was like, and we were screaming about it in our previews and stuff too, is that if she didn't turn on those girls, she would have looked like the biggest geek in the world. As in like, hey, we don't want you, we don't want you, we don't want you. Hey, someone's hurt. Yeah, come on in. Like, and then she just came out there and wrestled and was like fine and like, hey, water under the bridge. It's all good. I love what she gets in and just immediately turns on her buddy and just kicks her in the gut and throws her against the cage. I love that turn. We didn't get a time to talk about it. We didn't do a show the week of TakeOver, but man, I love that heel turn. It was so perfect and so good. And the best heel turns are usually the ones that you see a mile away and they just do it. You know what I mean? They don't think too much about it. It's just they just do it, and it makes all the sense in the world sometimes.
A lot of times, the right booking move is the obvious booking move. You don't always have to fool us. And that was an example of a booking move that everybody saw coming a mile away, and it was still the right move to make and the one you had to make. And she went right after Tegan Knox's like robotic knees. She's had all those knee issues, and she's just slamming those knees into that cage door. And yeah, it was just a tremendous heel turn and perfectly acceptable that we all saw it coming. Sometimes we talk about it all the time too. Sometimes the best title changes are the ones that everyone knows is coming. That's well built and it's building to that moment. And then you just fucking do it. And I think sometimes bookers get too wrapped up in trying to fool everybody. And sometimes they miss out on just those obvious feel good moments. We just talked about Kofi Kingston. He had to win at WrestleMania.
Right.
And there would have been no other acceptable outcome. He had to win the match. He should have won, and he had to win, and he won. And it ended up being, the best WWE moment of the year. And it's ultimately going to be one of those Pantheon WrestleMania moments. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that's going to be one that people think of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're going to use that in highlight clips forever as well. I mean, that is, it's definitely reached that level for them for sure. And yeah, that's again, like a lot of times, and the good thing about doing the obvious title switches a lot is that when you do the not obvious one, it is that much more impactful. But the idea that like you always do the not obvious one, and that ends up becoming like it's weird. And this is how kind of wrestling booking has evolved over the last 10, 15 years or whatever. As we're kind of talking decade stuff here, is you get a lot of that now, like you said, where bookers get a little too cute with it and just think, oh well, everybody knows this is going to happen, so I can't do this. And it's like no. What you do is you do the obvious most of the time, so that when the obvious when what should be obvious doesn't happen, then that's like then that's the surprise. That's the big deal. And like I always go back to like the Summer Punk thing with CM Punk and Ring of Honor. It was like, all right, there's no way he's going to win this match. There's no reason he should win this match, and he wins it. And like the only reason that worked is because they had done like kind of the title switches that made sense up until that point, and that was the first one where it was like, oh really? Okay, he didn't lose. That's strange, or he won the match or whatever. So there's ways you can do it, but yeah, we get a little too cute these days, and I think bookers get a little too worried about what the fan. Oh, they already know this is going to happen, so we can't do that. Well, just do that. Like that's a lot of times, like you said, is sometimes or most of the times is the best choice anyway.
When the timing is right for something, you do it whether it's obvious or not. Fans wanted that Kofi win at that moment in time. They peaked that story for WrestleMania, to perfection. Okay? It would have been all wrong if Daniel Bryan, won the match or somehow retained the title, and then Kofi won the title on Monday Night Raw the next night.
Yeah, or the next month. Whatever. Yeah, that would suck. Yeah.
No, the right timing for that was WrestleMania. And the right timing for this Dakota Kai turn, even though we all saw it coming, was when it was her turn to enter that match. Like that, that's when it needed to happen, regardless of whether it surprised anyone or not. So it's just all about, that's what great wrestling booking, it's all about peaking things. The challenge is to peak things for when you want them to peak, number one, and then recognizing if something isn't peaking when you expected it to, either because it's taking longer for the fans to come around or taking longer to tell your story, or if fans want it a little, is knowing when to change your plans and hit the peak yourself. And there's many examples of missing the peak. You just mentioned, we led off the show talking about Seth Rollins. Did ROH miss the peak on Tyler Black or what? I mean, that's God, like one of the most... Yeah,
about 9 months or so for that. Yeah, just absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one example of missing the peak, and I can't remember off the top of my head 2009 ROH booking and if there were opportunities to give him the title before they did. But the point is, in hindsight, it was very obvious they missed the peak on that one. So, another thing about Seth is a quick aside before we get to the second thing you want to get to. Today, I just happened to start tallying up my end of year stuff. And what I do every year is I tally up, I go in the notebook, I add up all of my 4-star matches for the year. 4 stars or better. I break them down by wrestler and by promotion and all that. And I came up, it's not like I expected the following 3 wrestlers to like clean up on my spreadsheet. Okay. But Rich, I was still a little surprised. There were 3 WWE wrestlers that barely had, they each had 1 match all year long that I rated 4 stars or higher. And they're major stars. And one of them was Seth Rollins. Does it surprise you that Seth Rollins only has 1 match in the Joe Lanza notebook? Now listen, I don't speak for everyone, obviously.
Right.
But does that, but you know my taste and we have similar taste. Maybe you would have 3, maybe you would have 0. But I think you'd be around the same neighborhood, right? I mean, we're not like totally divergent in taste here. So does that surprise you at all that Seth only had 1 match?
Not really, to be honest. And it's one thing that I guess we really haven't, we sort of talk about it, when we cover WWE pay-per-views or we preview WWE pay-per-views or whatever. But there's this weird thing right now where the company has where it doesn't really make any sense, because just even 2 years ago, this company was rolling out like really, really good pay-per-views on a near monthly basis. 3 years ago, there was like incredible stuff every single month. We talked about it on the show. It was like, this is ridiculous. Like every pay-per-view is good. Every pay-per-view has like 3 or 4 matches that are really, really good, and they were enjoyable watches. But for whatever reason this year, I don't know if it's the aesthetics. I don't know if it's my takes. I don't know what it is exactly, but just nothing seems to click. You watch these pay-per-views and it's just a barrage of 2 to 3 star type matches. Nothing that really gets going. Nothing that really gets you excited. And Seth is one of the worst, guys in that, because like you think you sit down and you watch whatever, WWE Fastlane or whatever, and you're like, all right, here we go. It's Seth versus whoever. And you expect it to be good and you think that it's going to be good. And then you watch it and it's just there. It's just kind of, it just doesn't reach those high levels. So no, I'm not really surprised because, I'd have to go back and look at my list, but I can't off the top of my head. And I'm curious what the one match that you did give 4 stars. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Okay, what were the really good Seth Rollins matches this year? What were the matches that you really, really liked? And I'm kind of striking out off the top of my head. I mean, I'll go click around and look at it here in a bit. But yeah, there's not really that many that jump out to me that like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beginning of the year was the Dolph Ziggler stuff, and that really stunk. I mean, God, there was that just absolute dud of a main event that they had. There was the Wyatt stuff that never quite worked out. There was a bunch of Baron Corbin bullshit. Like, he really has not had a very good year at all. So no, I'm probably not surprised that he only has 1 4-star.
It was Seth versus Brock on August 12th. I believe that is
SummerSlam. Yeah, okay. So I'm looking at my notes too. I have that one at 4 stars as well. Trying to see if I have any others. I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. So that's Seth.
Styles and Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. I also have 4 stars.
What's the date on that?
That is 5/19/2019.
Let me see if I missed that. I don't remember much about it. Oh, I do remember this match. A lot of people liked it more than me. I remember now. I think we even had this conversation. It just didn't do a damn thing for me. But that's a good transition. Another guy on my list. AJ Styles, Rich.
Oh, jeez.
1 match.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, what have we been saying about AJ? The last 2 years, he is like the most overrated wrestler on the planet because he has this reputation of being like this best bout machine, this fucking, 4 stars every time the bell rings. He's AJ Styles. He's one of the best in the world. Richie has not been one of the best in the world over the last 2 years. I mean, outside of that Brock match, I think was that the end of last year or the year before now? I think it was the end of last December, right? TLC last year, or was it the year before?
I believe that was November. So, no, November 2017, I think, is the match you're thinking of. Are you thinking of Survivor
17?
Series? I think it was that one. I think if we have the right match, let me make sure there's not another Brock AJ match that I'm thinking of. But yeah, I think it's November 2017 that you're thinking of.
Okay, then I don't retract my statement. For 2 years, basically.
No, that's the match you're thinking of for sure.
To me, that was the end. And, he didn't have a great 17 either, in my opinion. But 17 was still, 18 and 19, AJ is it's all reputation. Because if you really dig in, okay, you had the weird Samoa Joe feud where Samoa Joe wanted to stalk and fuck his wife. And those matches were okay. You had the Nakamura matches, which I think one of them I really liked and one was just okay. And this is 2018 I'm talking now, I think. And then this year, the guy hasn't done shit. And I think it's a combination of age, number one. He's in his mid-40s now. House style, there's no question, like you just spoke about with Seth. The WWE house style is just not conducive to great matches anymore. It just isn't, And then the third factor, I think, is a guy like AJ knows he doesn't have to you think he goes into the match with the same mentality that he went into his TNA and New Japan and Ring of Honor matches?
God, no.
Where he's like, wow, I've got to go out there and kill it tonight? No, because you don't have to. You can get by in WWE, grabbing a headlock on Ricochet and, going out there and having a 3-star match.
God, how nothing is that feud been between those two? If you would have told me, Rich, in 2 years or whatever, if in 2016 you said, Rich, in 2 years, AJ Styles and Ricochet are going to have like 5 matches in a year, and they're just going to suck. You know what I mean? And they don't suck, but they suck by like what they should be, because they're just fine. They're just okay. They're 3 stars. They're 3 1/4. They're just mundane. And it's like, how do you AJ Styles and Ricochet? Like, how does that happen? How is that possible? I'm looking at my list. Go ahead. Yeah, finish your thing, and then I'll tell you.
I can tell you quickly. List. Yeah. And then because I only have 1 for AJ, but I can tell you what it is. The story of that feud, okay, was AJ Styles not allowing Ricochet to do what he does best, and grounding him. Which, okay, on its face, that's not a bad story. The problem with that story is by the 3rd or 4th match, Ricochet needs to figure out that strategy, how to counter it, and then do all of the shit that gets Ricochet over. And then it would be nice if he'd win the fucking feud and win the match. You know what I mean? But that's not how they do things. It's the same thing where AJ smothered Cedric Alexander, where everyone thought, logically, Cedric Alexander is going to win this feud and win the title in the end. Because that's how wrestling fans think. They think logically. We, intellectuals, you and I, Rich, knew damn well that Ced was never going to get the upper hand in that. And it was just AJ Styles smothering that dude, having matches 60% as good as they could have been. And then Cedric Alexander, as a result, never getting over, and now he's working main event against Mojo Rawley. So there you go. But what'd you have for AJ?
So I'm looking at these, and I had that I mentioned the AJ Seth match in May that I had, and the only other AJ match that I have, and this one is like, this is always one of these ones that's kind of loose, is the Elimination Chamber match that they had in February. But he's one of 5 or 6 guys in that match. So is that? Do I count that as an AJ match? Yes, he was a part of it, but I don't know if that, like, intellectually, I don't know if I would really quite count that solely on his, checking his box. So for the case, in this case, I have one quote unquote actual AJ match, and then there's another one that he was involved in as well that I had 4+ stars.
Mine is the Elimination Chamber. That's it.
Oh, really? So there you go. Wow. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good if that's the only one. And like, the thing that's interesting too is we did hear from other people when you were making those tweets about that, and it's not like we had a bunch of people saying, "Oh, you guys are assholes," or even like WWE fans are like, "Oh yeah, I only have like 1 or 2." Like it's so weird that this company is just, with all this talent, the house style is really. Yeah, this year I feel it more than any other year that I felt it, and it's not like this house style is totally new, but for whatever reason, it just feels so constrictive these days. And we always talk about it too. The crowds don't make any noise, so even if the match is like okay, like you're kind of bored watching it because the crowd's not making any noise, and it's just for whatever reason, the combination of the house style, the crowd, and just everything around it's led to just a pathetic year for a company that has so much talent. And so many opportunities as well with these 3-hour, 5-hour, 4-hour pay-per-views every single month. Like, this should be the time when, like, guys are given 25 minutes now. And maybe that's an issue. Maybe that's the reason why these matches aren't quite as good. But, like, guys are given the time. Guys are given the outlets. The matches happen. The matchups happen. It's the right combinations of guys. There's very talented guys. And there's just nothing. This year has just kind of been a dud for the entire company.
It's not a big match promotion anyway. It's just not a promotion where you're going to look to see great matches this year. It just hasn't been. And it's also not a promotion where you see bad matches. Everything is right in the middle in that company. They just don't peak very high. And really, Rich, it started last year, because I remember having a similar conversation last year, but I don't think it was as bad as it is this year in terms of lack of high-level matches. They just don't, and we're talking main roster here.
Right.
Which tells you that it's the main roster house style, because guys kill it in NXT, and then they get called up. A great example is Ricochet. Okay, before he got called up this year, I had 5, 6, about a half a dozen matches for Ricochet that were high-level matches. Remember the Gargano match he had at an early takeover this year?
Absolutely, fantastic. Yeah.
And then Ricochet gets called up, and for the entire second half of the year, I've got nothing else involving Ricochet, because he's just out there having the same 3-star match that everybody else has, because even a guy like Ricochet, they're like forcing him and wedging him into this house style. It's just not and look, I don't think they care. It's just, it's not about having great matches there. And because of the way everything is so micromanaged and controlled, it's really hard to have one anyway. And the third guy I wanted to bring up was Roman Reigns. One match for Roman Reigns as well. So it's like a guy like Roman Reigns, a guy like AJ Styles, a guy like Seth Rollins, Rich, they should have better output than this. They're too good not to. And the scary part about Roman Reigns is, he has just as many 4-star matches this year, according to Joe Lanza, as The Undertaker. And that's Shane McMahon.
Oh, boy.
You know why?
So the one match. I know what match it is.
Because they were all in the same match.
Dear God. Yeah. That match ruled, though. That match fucking rocked. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it opened up that pay-per-view, and it was a whole lot of fun. And, they disguised a lot of Undertaker's weaknesses and Shane's weaknesses by making it a wild brawl. And I like that match. But that should not be the only Roman Reigns match of note in an entire calendar year. So I remember last year talking about how bad of a year it was in WWE for high-end matches. Yeah. This year was
little did we know, man. It is pretty shocking. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these cage match numbers too, and it's not like it's not, people might think that we're on our own little island and we hate this company or whatever. I mean, look around. Like, it's not just us. Like, go on Grapple, go on Cage Match. Look at our Twitter, even our Twitter replies, even from people that are ardent, WWE fans, it's kind of the same thing. Like people kind of all agree that it's like, yeah, it's not quite, this year just hasn't been high level for matches right now.
It's the main route. I mean, look, my number one WWE wrestler, I mean, look at it this way, is Gargano with 6 matches. Okay. Missed like half the year too. All right. My 2 guys tied for second are Kyle O'Reilly and Akira Tozawa.
Right.
Who, again, one guy's an NXT guy and the other guy spent a year at the kids table on 205 Live, having those really good 205 Live matches that nobody was watching. And then after that, it's, Matt Riddle with 5 total matches, but one of them was in Evolve, so only 4 inside the company. And then finally you get to a main roster wrestler. Daniel Bryan had 4. That's the number one main roster wrestler, and the only one with 4 or more. So I just think it's the working style of it's what they want out of their wrestlers on the main roster. It's just not conducive to what your hardcore smarky type of fan would view as great high level matches. They just do not have them.
All right, let's get to the second topic I was going to do. We've had some really good feedback on these like decade in review things that we've been doing the last few flagships, and we'll probably do these until the end of the year as well because it kept, helps kind of fill some space here. And you put this up on Twitter as well, and I'm kind of shocked as well is that we have not, we're 25 days or whatever away from the end of this decade, and there is just nothing out there about wrestler of the decade and matches of the decade and this sort of stuff, and it's kind of interesting that wrestling media doesn't seem to. I thought everybody would be chomping at the bit to talk about this stuff, but nobody really is. It's just kind of like we're doing them on these flagships here, and we've had some discussions about doing a match of the decade thing. We have a ton of other projects going on at the end of the year as well, and I guess we should have maybe planned for a little bit more end of the decade stuff because I kind of assumed that a lot of other people are going to do stuff. It's nothing, man. It is like this decade's going to come and go, and we're just not going to talk about it. I don't know what's going on with this, but it's pretty interesting. Are you surprised that like no one's doing anything else about this? Wrapping up a decade in any way, shape, or form?
Nobody is doing any high profile best of the decade anything. It's surprising to me, and maybe we'll see some stuff come out in January or February, but I don't see it, in the last couple of flagships, we talked about wrestler of the decade. We talked about moment of the decade, and we're going to do another one today, but we're guilty as charged too, because outside of that, we have a website, we have a podcast. We have a podcast network. We have subscribers, and we're not doing anything either. So why isn't anyone motivated to do best of the decade stuff? I figured people would be all over this, but even us, just no one's doing it. I don't understand it.
It is kind of weird, yeah, and a big reason, I kind of assumed that everybody else was going to be doing it, so it was like, whatever, we got our stuff, we have, the New Japan ebook coming out, we have Match of the Year coming up, in January or whatnot, so I kind of was just like, whatever, we're going to have enough to do, and it's like, geez, what a missed opportunity, we really should have done a little bit more with this, but I'm having fun with these discussions, and like I said, maybe we'll start seeing stuff in the last few weeks, or we'll see stuff after the year turns, but yeah, it feels like right now should be the time that everyone's doing it, and there's just really not much happening, but one of the topics that, I asked people some stuff that they wanted to hear about at the end of the decades and some sort of topic ideas or whatever. And the one that kind of hit me and the one that I kind of was most inspired by, feud of the decade. And the reason why I got kind of inspired by this is, and you and I have had this discussion a lot when we talk about like the Wrestling Observer Awards and that sort of stuff, is that it feels like in modern wrestling, like a feud, the classic terminology for a feud doesn't quite I don't know. It a lot of times it just ends up being like a series of matches that guys have or whatever. But still, with that said, is I then sort of asked, hey, what was your your favorite feud of the decade to people on Twitter, and we got a lot of really good responses and a lot that really did kind of inspire me to say, this has really been, if you think about it, a really good decade in terms of high level feuds. Yeah, some of the stuff is just like guys that have matches with each other, but that's fine. Like in my Steamboat and Flair is a feud, even if it's just kind of a long collection of matches or whatever. So, before I kind of list off names, I mean, obviously the one that everyone's going to say, the one that we got the most replies to, and the one that there's no point in really even having a conversation about it, it's probably my pick, I'm sure it's your pick as well, is Okada and Tanahashi, right? Like that's probably number one, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, I couldn't even make an argument to put anything ahead of it because number one, it had the best matches. Number two, it drew a shit ton of money. Number three, it helped create a new star. I mean, everything you want out of that kind of feud. It wasn't like a blood feud or anything like that, but it ticked every box for everything you want out of that feud. Great long-term booking and planning. It played out over the course of 6 or 7 years. The matches were all phenomenal right through the match this year at the G1, which was another great match. And again, it created the biggest star of the decade and one of the biggest stars of all time. It helped elevate someone into that position. So, yeah, I don't think there's any argument that would be my number one.
Yeah, so with that said, like, let's kind of swipe that one for the record. It's fine. Okada Tanahashi, I agree, you agree. Most of the people that replied agreed, but I think there's some fun ones to kind of dive into a little bit and talk about, because there's one that kind of inspire me a little bit as well. There's ones that I really liked. We'll stick with New Japan with this one, and Okada versus Omega. Does that one reach a high-level feud of the decade here when we're talking about it? We're not talking about people that are in the conversation, yeah, this could kind of be there. We're talking about ones that you would really, non-Okada Tanahashi division, that you would really say, yeah, that is a feud of the decade. Would Okada and Omega reach that level for you?
Yeah. I'd probably have it in my top 5 or my top 10, because the matches were so incredibly awesome. And it really was sort of it was a very important feud too, from the perspective of bringing new fans into New Japan and all that with Omega and elevating Omega to another level as a worldwide star, and the creation of AEW and all that. So again, yeah, it's another very important feud. You know, there's some importance to it. You know, it's like that. That's what's, that separates it maybe from some other feuds that maybe were more heated, or I can't imagine many that had better matches, but it just ended up being a significant feud. So yeah, I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, and I think for whatever reason, this one, Okada Omega feels like it was like years ago. You know what I mean? It feels like it was the early part of this decade. And it's like, it wasn't that long ago. And I'm right with you. I mean, this is 2017, 2018 really is that feud at its peak. And yeah, like you said, the series of matches definitely stand up as all-time greats. And like you said too, it was a huge opening to a lot of American fans and a lot of overseas fans to New Japan Pro Wrestling, because Omega was that gate that a lot of people needed to get in there. And yeah, the matches absolutely delivered on a top tier level, and yeah, I think it absolutely is one that deserves inclusion in there. Because initially I read it and I was like, I don't know, and then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, you know what, that was a pretty damn good one. So that's one that I totally agree with as well. This one I like a lot, and this one's one of these interesting ones because it plays into a lot of different companies, different characters, different stuff. I don't know how do you classify feuds like that? Because the one I'm going to talk about here is Sting versus Generico, which by proxy is also, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens as well. So we have Sting versus Generico, and their feud really starts, 2009, bleeds in through 2010. We see it pick back up in 2012. We see it happen again in NXT in 2015. I want to say 2014, 2015. Forget the exact year. And then again in like 2016 or whatever. So this is one that has had many different lengths. Do you kind of combine these all together, or do you think it's more, should you separate Zayn and Owens versus Sting and Generico, or do they all kind of blend in together for you a little bit?
No, because I think it's all one feud, because it all has some connective tissue. When Kevin Owens powerbombed Sami Zayn into the ring apron on NXT, it wasn't done. It was done by the company recognizing that they had a past. It wasn't something the company was doing that they were putting over as something brand new or fresh. They recognized the past history that they had. They talked about the past history that they had. And this was an extension of that. And then Kevin Owens referenced all that history in his promos and everything else. So to me, there's some connective tissue there. And to me, it's all one long feud that took place over the course of the entire decade in something like 3 or 4 different companies.
Yeah, I'm right with you as well. And I think, I went back and watched some of the went back and watched Sting Generico last, because I was talking about best Ring of Honor matches of the decade and kind of watching some of the stuff, and yeah, man, that stuff that those guys had, I mean, this is just fucking, I watched that Final Battle 2010 match the other day, and it's just fucking great. God, it's really good. And yeah, I love the Zayn Owens stuff as well. So that's one that, like, I don't know if a lot of people are going to initially put that at the top of their list or near the top of their list, but they probably should. I think if you watch those matches and really understand what was going on at the time and see that feud through, and we were watching Ring of Honor at the time, it's a tremendous feud. I mean, it absolutely, to me, is going to belong on my, list of, if I had to make a, top 5 feuds of the decade list. Sting Generico is absolutely up there. And by proxy, Zayn and Owens as well.
For many years, I called it the last great pro wrestling feud.
Yeah, it was a blood feud, like the last blood feud that we had, where it was like two guys just wanted to kill one another, just kill each other.
Yeah, yeah, and again, if they would have just crossed paths at some point on fucking SmackDown last year over the U.S. title or something and never referenced their past, that to me wouldn't count as part of the long narrative. But to me, everything they did in all these companies, it was all one long story to me.
Right.
So,
there was always a wink,
also,
wink. There was always a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to their past, no matter what. Even if it was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, it was still wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Kevin Steen versus El Generico, always.
Even more than a wink and a nudge. I mean, they directly referenced their past, So yeah, absolutely. That's one of the top feuds of the decade, I think, without question.
So here's some other ones that really caught me, and they're kind of recent ones as well. So I'm curious where you kind of rank them and see if there's any recency buy-ins here. I'll kind of combine these two into one: David Starr versus Walter, and David Starr versus Jordan Devlin.
Yeah, Starr Walter for sure. Back end of the decade. I think the common theme there is David Starr. David Starr, and you could even toss in Starr Janela and beyond, right? And the thing there is Starr. He is the common denominator because he's one of the few guys left on the indie scene who can reel you into a story with promos and emotion. And that is totally what we're lacking on the indies today. A guy who can, really get you emotionally invested in a story, whether it's for him or the other guy, or with lots of shades of gray, like the Devlin thing, right? And, that's why David Starr has risen to the heights he has and is a guy where if he is a regular in your indie, he's going to be at the top of your card.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be a top guy because he has that ability, and he has the work to match it. So, yeah, those are very high-end indie feuds. Absolutely.
There's something you mentioned that I think is really interesting, and something that I don't see a lot in pro wrestling feuds anymore with pro wrestlers. And it was a little point that you brought up there, but it was that Starr not only gets himself over, but also the guy that he's feuding with. He makes that guy matter too. Like those promos with Devlin, the stuff with Walter, it's not David Starr talking about himself and giving his accomplishments. It's, I do this, but you know what? That guy does that. And that's why I'm better than that guy. And it's like, it's a subtle little thing. And people are listening and probably going, oh, that really, like, think of feuds and think of wrestlers and think of promos and think of indies and whatever. How often do we see good promos and good characters that find a way to get both guys over? Where in Starr's case, he wants him to be the good guy or him to be the bad guy, and the guy he's facing to be either good or bad as well. It's this subtle little thing that a lot of people don't do anymore, and it's a reason why there's not many feuds anymore that are really high level, is because like that's a subtle little thing to do there, but it's so important, and he's so good at it.
Yeah, and it's the old Terry Funk theory. It's like you don't want to bury your opponent too much because then you're beating a nobody.
Yeah,
right. It's that old theory. But I think, it isn't just in Europe, like I said. I mean, I think they had what? Did they have four? They had 4 or 5 matches, Janela and Starr, in Beyond, culminating
right.
with the they had the what was it, at American Rana, I think, that the 60-minute Iron Man?
Yeah, the Iron Man match, which that match fucking rocks, by the way. If you have not seen that match, and I loathe 60-minute matches. I hate Iron Man matches, but it was legit one of the best ones I've ever seen. The timing of it, the pacing of it, the elevation of certain spots, the falls when they came in, like, that is a tremendous match.
Yeah, they had the New Year's Eve match. I remember that one. That was some kind of plunder. I don't know what the exact stipulation was. That might have been 2 or 3 years ago. And then they had a barbed wire match, and then I think they finished it up with the 60-minute Iron Man. So, and again, same kind of deal there. I mean, Starr is one of these guys who's he's perfect for a long-term feud. And you look at all of his feuds, they're all long-term. And when I say long-term, I'm not talking 8 months. Okay, I'm talking like years.
Right.
And he's able to keep you emotionally invested in his issues for years. All while working in multiple places and being, one of the, a true independent wrestler who was never tied down to one promotion either. And he has all of these feuds going on concurrently as well. So it's like the emotional effort that goes into he's doing them like several at a time too. So I don't think enough could be said with how great of a feud wrestler David Starr is, particularly in an era where that isn't like promotions don't try to draw money with feuds anymore. It's crazy. Like we've gotten away from that for some reason. And he's just a true throwback and great at it. So yes, across the board to all of the ones you named.
Yeah. Star is one that you kind of have to put in a category where I don't know if there's any one of those that I would say is a top 5, but you kind of need to collect, especially the Devlin and Walter ones. I mean, those feuds are interwoven like completely. Walter, Devlin, and Star, like feud exists because of prior feuds and prior matches and prior, like that's just interwoven. You can really combine those two if you really want to, and if that's the case, it's definitely one that I think even with recency bias or whatever, I still think that's one that stands head and shoulders above a lot of the other feuds this entire decade. One that I need to mention, a lot of people did mention, but it's just not for me, and it just didn't quite click for me at all, is Gargano versus Ciampa. I don't know. Like the matches didn't reach that level for me. The feud didn't reach that level for me. It's just, I don't know. I understand why people mentioned it, but it's one that just doesn't register with me much at all.
I get it though. I mean, I get it. They tease the turn forever. They do the turn, and did the feud go on too long? I mean, for me and you,
yes.
It did.
Yes. For
a lot of the people listening, it did. But for the core NXT audience, did it? I mean, did that company's audience ever give up on it the way that we did? Did that company's audience think that it was far too melodramatic the way that we did? I don't think they did. I think that they kept doing that match and they over and over and over. And I think that the NXT fans kept eating it up. So maybe chalk it up to something that started off great, but then just went on for far too long for our tastes. And maybe I wouldn't put it on my personal list because of that. But I think I have to be fair and include it in a list of the great feuds of the decade. Is that a fair answer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think from an objective standpoint, it feels like it should belong there, even if like you and I can admit that it didn't quite hit that level for us, or didn't quite, work for us on that same level. So I think that's fine. There's going to be a few that I think are this way as well, because, here's a couple WWE ones that I'll kind of lump in together and get your kind of quick hit thoughts on. Becky Lynch versus Charlotte was one that got mentioned a few times. And for the decade, I don't know. Maybe I feel like next decade, it might be a better case than it was for this decade. I don't know. I just don't quite, it doesn't quite register for me whatsoever. Here's
the problem with the horsewomen. Not Ronda and Shayna and those horsewomen, but the other horse, you know who I'm talking about. There is no, what would be the pair off between Sasha, Becky, Charlotte, and Bayley, right? Which two would you pair off if you had to say these two are the career rivals? I don't know if I have a great answer for that, because they've been friends and partners and enemies and frenemies so many different times with each other, especially now that they've all been on the main roster for 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, that it's like, I don't have a good feel for it. It's all just a jumbled mess to me.
Right. Like, I couldn't definitively tell you. Like, if someone said, hey, describe the Becky Lynch-Charlotte feud, it'd be like, you know what? Like, how would you even do that? How would you properly say, okay, well, this happened, and then they had this match, and then that happened because of that match? It's like you said, like, they're tagging sometimes, they're in 4-way sometimes, they're in a triple threat match sometimes. Lynch is against, this person sometimes, and then she's against that. Like, it's very difficult to say, okay, here is, like, the other things that we talked about, Okada and Omega. Okada versus Tanahashi, Steen Generico, Star Devlin, these other ones that we've talked about, Gargano Ciampa, there's a clear, this happened, and then this happened, and that was the result of all these. I couldn't even begin to tell you Becky Lynch versus Charlotte.
It's all a big jumbled mess between the four of them. So like I said, I couldn't even tell you. Maybe Becky and Charlotte would be the two where you would say, okay, these two among the four and their story coming through together, these are the two big enemies. But what about Sasha and Charlotte? What about Sasha and Bayley?
I was going to say, the best match of that entire horsewomen feud thing or whatever was that match. Yeah, for sure.
But then they're partners and they're winning tag team titles together. And the whole thing is too jumbled to me. And if I can't definitively pick out who the two arch rivals are. Two of those women should hate each other. I should think that they hate each other's guts and wouldn't dream of teaming with each other ever. At least, can we just pair off two of them and give us that, please? Do we have to jumble it all up and make it all confusing? But that's the main roster. That's why it's so hard, main roster, because every month is essentially a reset button.
Yeah.
And you just don't have those great long-term issues, you know? This isn't Dragon Gate. If this were Dragon Gate, you know, Bayley and Sasha or whoever would be side-eyeing each other for 8 years, even when they weren't involved with it. You know what I mean? They would refuse to team with each other, and they would, even if they were in the same unit, they would refuse to team with each other, and they'd hate each other, but that's just not how this company does things, unfortunately. So I can't put any of those 4 horsewomen feuds in with each other. I just can't do it. Yeah,
I'm with you there. We'll move on to here. Daniel Bryan versus The Authority. That was obviously the build to WrestleMania 30. A big moment in its time, but it really has felt like it maybe didn't have the lasting effect. And obviously it there were some bumps in the road and you know, people like to kind of forget that this thing kind of happened because, you know, the WWE just refused to do it. And Bryan was in the Wyatt family for a little bit and then they couldn't deny it and then they put him back in it. So it's not as clean as like people kind of want to say, and it's not as clean as the narrative might tell you it was, but still a very good feud for its time. But I don't think it has a contender to be, you know, feud of the decade.
Here's what it has. The satisfying moment at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It does have that. And oddly, a lot of these feuds don't. You know, you look back and you say, well, what was the conclusion? And there's one that I don't know if you're going to bring it up. I'm going to wait to see if you do. And if you don't, I will. But there's one feud where I saw a lot of people bring it up, but I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but there's no conclusion. I can't put it on the list. This one at least had a conclusion. Daniel Bryan won that title at WrestleMania in New Orleans. And he defeated The Authority. The good guy beat the bad guys, right? The most basic of pro wrestling stories. So I'm going to differ from you. I would put it on a list of the best feuds of the decade. I would. Even with all of the things you said that are true. People have sort of rose-colored glasses with it. They don't know that the company, don't really remember that it was fought tooth and nail and had some rough patches. They still were trying to force feed Randy Orton.
Yeah, remember the Big Show? Remember the Big Show? He came out, I forget what the fuck pay-per-view it was. Battleground, I want to say. And it was like the worst. It was like a horrible show. And it was like, you know, they had dicked around and done the Randy Orton thing for a few different months or whatever. And then they had a match. It was Bryan and Orton. And Big Show just came in and punched everybody. And then the pay-per-view went off the air. It was like no finish, nothing. And I was just like, they never talk about that. You know what I mean? It's like Daniel Bryan wins the title at SummerSlam, gets screwed over. Then he gets in the ring with Triple H and says, give me the match at WrestleMania. It's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like, there was like 5 months you guys left out of that feud, but it's like, that's fine.
I mean, the company wanted it to end at SummerSlam, but it was just the fans weren't having that shit. And the worst thing about the Big Show is they tried to have him steal the yes chant. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah, that's right.
The yes chant was so over.
Oh God.
That the company's plan was to kind of transfer it by osmosis to Big Show to get him over with it. And again, it didn't work.
Was this when Big Show lost all of his money in the his strip mall investments? Is that the same? Is that the same Big Show hat in hand to The Authority story
so.
that I'm thinking of, or no? Okay.
I think that's a slightly different era, but
I don't know if it is or not. Try to figure out what Big Show era you're actually talking about is a fun game as well. But
yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, the fans forced their hand and they got what they want and they were given the satisfying conclusion. So, you know, even with all the messiness in between, I think I have to put it there just because of the satisfying conclusion.
So now this one I got a few times, and the times that I got it was from people that didn't follow us. And when I give you this answer, you'll see why. And it was like the responses were like, "Oh, there's no doubt it is this feud," and I'm like, "Okay, really? All right." And it's Rock versus Cena. We had like 6 or 7 people that I have never seen in our replies before. Their usernames are, you know, Bo WWE fan #1 or whatever, and is like, "Oh, there's no question. This is obviously the pick." And I'm like, all right, like that's, and it's one of these things where once you leave your bubble, like I would have, Joe, you would have, if you could have given me 2 hours to list every feud in this decade, I don't know that I would have gotten to Rock versus Cena, but those people, for those fans, for Bo WWE fan #1 or whatever the fuck I said, that was it. It was definitive, no question. Where do you put Rock and Cena?
I wouldn't have thought of it either, but I can't disagree.
No, I mean, they're kind of right. Once I started to think about it a little bit, I was like, yeah, that was a huge deal. I mean, that was a crossover thing. It really lasted 3 years, really, if you think about it. Yeah, Rock wasn't there all the time, but like it started with the Miz Cena match, and it carried over to 2 straight WrestleManias as well. So no, I mean, it's undeniable that that's a part of it. It has to be.
Well, let's not forget the Miz and R-Truth versus The Rock and John Cena at Survivor Series. Can't forget that class. But yeah, it lasted multiple WrestleManias and was a legitimate, well-told, long-term, multi-year story by WWE. That was in the early days of the flagship, and I remember talking about those matches and that feud a lot. And I can't disagree. I mean, it drew money. I mean, you know, what's the point of a pro wrestling feud?
Right. To
get money out of your pocket, you know, and the matches were more than acceptable. They're not any kind of all-time greats, but I mean, I would have never thought of that, but I cannot deny it. So I'll rubber stamp that one.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that one.
I'm right with you too, but like I'm saying, I would have. You would have given me 2 hours, and I don't know if I would have gotten to that one. And then when I read it, I was like, "Fuck yeah, that you know, Bo WWE fan #1 is right. That absolutely is, and that is not a real account, by the way. So don't follow that. It probably is a real account, but I don't know if that person was the one that followed us. But this is another one that got mentioned a few times from WWE fans as well. Punk versus Cena. I mean, this is really the beginning of this website is because of that feud, but one that I think because it got muddied so quickly, we talked about it as an important moment in the decade, and I think I would like it more as that. As an important moment in the decade, an important match of the decade, then I would like it as a feud of the decade, because so quickly after, it stopped being about Punk versus Cena. It was really Punk versus The Authority, Punk versus Vince McMahon, and then it just got muddied right away into like Punk versus Kevin Nash and Punk versus Triple H and all that sort of stuff. So the actual idea of it being Punk versus Cena is so small. It's such a small part of the story that I just can't. I can't buy it being on this list whatsoever.
Yeah, Cena was more a stand-in for the company, but not in a heel way.
Right.
Just, hey man, I work here and I like it here, and you know, I don't like those guys either. I don't like our bosses either, but you know, I'll stand up for our fans and all this and that. So it's like a different kind of dynamic, but yeah, it's not a terrible pick. You know, I don't like it as much as some of the others we talked about, but it's not bad. It's all right.
All right, let's get a little international here with these last 3, I should say here. Dragon Lee versus Kamatachi.
Yeah, I mean, look,
still going, arguably.
Absolutely, it's still going. Listen, we're going to talk about this later on, but the fact that they're teaming at Wrestle Kingdom, right, against in Jushin Thunder Liger's final match, with Liger teaming with one of his best-known career rivals, is not happenstance, okay? It absolutely is still going. These two men will forever be attached due to their series of matches in Mexico and then several that they had in Japan when Hiromu came back from excursion. And it's a different kind of feud in that, yeah, in Mexico, you know, they had the hair match or the hair versus mask or whatever, but really people are going to remember this feud for the great matches. And it's okay to have, maybe it's more of a rivalry than a feud, you know, but then you're splitting hairs. But fuck yeah. To me, this is one of those tentpole in-ring rivalries, one of the greatest of all time. This is right there with any of them. So I would absolutely put it on the list for top of the decade. No question. Yeah.
People that don't list this one, I think you probably have not seen these matches or you don't really know quite about it, but it absolutely is there. I believe that series of videos from Cubs Fan is still up there. If you just look up Dragon Lee versus Kamatachi, who's obviously Hiromu Takahashi, if you do not know that. I think that he's still got a collection of all those videos or a playlist of all the matches. And like a lot of the matches aren't super long. Like you can watch that playlist in like one sitting pretty easily if you want. Like, yeah, you know, some of the matches go a little bit longer, but it's not like you're going to watch 60-minute epics every single time out there. A lot of times it's pretty short, but yeah, we've seen it carry over into New Japan. And now you have the real life injury of Hiromu at the hands of Dragon Lee, which I think only enhances it a little bit more. You know, unfortunately, you know, the circumstances aren't great, obviously, that it took, you know, a man to break his neck or whatever, but that should only enhance it more in the future. And yeah, we talk about it as well, and I think I've written it in the ebook a few times too, is that like I want these guys 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, if they're in the ring together, they see each other and they just fucking brawl. They just go. Like we always mention the all-time great of that is the Strikeforce breakup. Is it, you know, Rick Martel and why am I blanking on the fucking other
Tito Santana?
Yeah, Tito Santana. Why am I blanking on Tito Santana, for God's sakes? Is that like there'd be it was like Royal Rumble 1992 or whatever, and Tito Santana would run in and he'd see Rick Martel and he'd fucking fight. And it was like 6 years after they broke up. They've had nothing to do with each other from that point on forward. But like they would see each other and they just had to fucking fight each other. It's like, oh wait, yeah, fuck you, dude. Like I hate you. And that's the makings of a really, really good feud too. And that's what Dragon Lee Kamitachi, Dragon Lee Hiromu, whatever, is going to go on forever because of that. And hopefully so. And yeah, like you said, not an accident whatsoever that they're teaming at Wrestle Kingdom. And I'd be kind of disappointed if they just team and they're just a good team. I want a little bit of friction, you know? I don't want this to be like, yeah, we're good, we're happy-go-lucky, high five. Like I want some side eyes. You know, this guy broke my neck. You know, I'm not too happy with you right now, buddy. But that'll be a fun one. We'll talk about that when we talk about the Wrestle Kingdom.
There's so much symbolism in that match. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, the Sano versus and Liger teaming together after like they should give side eyes to each other too. I hope that entire match is just like weirdly awkward. Like, hey, wait a minute, like I don't really like you that much. Why are we teaming together? Like,
yeah, but those two guys, I think they had 8 or 9 total matches in CMLL. Then they had the match at Fantastica Mania when Hiromu showed up as a surprise and then wasn't fully back in New Japan, if you recall. Then they had the match, obviously, where he broke his neck. They even had a match in Ring of Honor. You remember that one?
Oh, right. Yeah, I do.
It wasn't that great, but they had one in Ring of Honor. So they've had like 11 or 12 matches. And no-brainer to have on the list.
I can't find right now if Cubs fan still has that playlist, but if I do find out, I'll throw it in the show notes. So you guys can see it, and for those who haven't seen the feud, they can kind of watch it and see what they think. All right, 2 more here, both international ones. Roosh and LA Park.
Okay, now this is one where I was going to say, I can't include this because there's no conclusion. You know, until they have the mask versus hair match, you can't be an all-time great feud or a best feud of the decade when it's just left hanging. They had a couple, tag matches that ended up being walk-in brawls, and they ended up having a couple matches that were also just like walk-in brawls. But what's the conclusion to all of this? Who won the feud? There's no answer. So how can I put this on the list? It's not over, or maybe it is over. We don't know. Now they've got 20 days to finish, and it's not going to happen before the end of the decade. Number one. But, I mean, if they have a match in March or something, and, Roosh takes his mask, or he takes Roosh's hair, and they finally do a clean finish. Rich, they don't even do clean finishes. So it's like they're still in the stage of the feud where no one even beats the other guy. So it's like, number one, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a conclusion. And quite honestly, it's like the most overrated fucking series of matches of the decade. If you want to give it something of the decade, it's the most overrated series of matches of the decade. They walk and brawl, they hit each other in the head with fucking various weapons, and then there's a bullshit finish. And look, I get it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I don't even understand the appeal of the matches, to be completely honest with you. So, this was one that I was fully planning on taking a big shit on because maybe if they had the blow-off, I'd feel different, and I would view it in the same lens as Gargano Ciampa, where, all right, it wasn't for me, but I get it, and I include it. But they haven't even had a proper conclusion to this thing. This is 2 guys who, can't get a company to do business with them to finish it off the right way. And it's just too thick politically, and it just, I need some finishes, and I need a conclusive winner and loser to this thing. Otherwise, it's just a series of walk-in brawls that aren't drastically different than what Jeff Jarrett did in TNA for 10 years. I don't know. I don't include it. Not for me.
Yeah, and my big thing is that it's just not final yet, and we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know if this feud just never happens again, and because if they're just done, say they just decide they're never going to do business together, and it's whatever. I don't know that I can include it right now because it's like you said, to me, to include it in a feud of the decade, to say okay, this is that feud, it kind of either has to feel like it had a finish, or it's got to be so high level like Dragon Lee and Kamitachi was, where it doesn't have a definitive finish, but it feels like. It feels like even if it is over, that you feel fulfilled. If Dragon Lee and Kamitachi come out or Dragon Lee and Hiromu or whatever, come out on Wrestle Kingdom and they hug and they go, oh, everything's water under the bridge, whatever. I think they've still had enough of a feud in that I could call it.
He took his hair.
Yeah. Right.
He took his hair.
Right, exactly. There was those definitive things. He broke his neck. He took his, there was enough in there that really does feel like it was a finality, even if the feud is going to continue. Whereas Roosh and LA Park, it's like, all right, what have we seen so far other than like they're still really in the midst of their feud, but the problem is, like you said, it's so politicized. It's like it's hard to really get excited about it. Like, what's going to happen? You know, is it ever going to end? It probably not.
Are they in the midst of it, or is it over? I don't know. Like, so now I will say this: it drew money. It drew big money. Okay, which is why they kept dragging it out. But it's but again, there's no conclusion. I mean, it checks some boxes. If the matches were for you, okay, that's great. Okay, I'll give you that. And it did draw money. That's for sure. You know, but it's like, it's just missing too much for me. And if they do wrap it up like next year or something, I'm more than willing to change my mind. But to me, it's just a feud that started and drew some money and was getting going. And then now it's gone. I mean, there's been plenty of feuds over the year that for one reason or another never concluded, and that's this one. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't include it with some of the ones that we've named.
Here's the last one that I wanted to mention, and I'm really curious on your thoughts for this one because it was interesting. Like we said, The Rock versus Cena really hit with a certain type of fan base, and then this one seemed to hit with a certain fan base as well. And it's Jimmy Havoc versus Will Ospreay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a great one, particularly for that place and time, and the most important feud for that promotion. So for that reason, I can totally see why people brought that up. No question about it. You know, and Jimmy Havoc really, if you really want to look at, he's still being booked to this day, probably because of that feud. Right. I mean, let's be honest. And it really didn't wrap up until like last year or the year before when they finally had that that no DQ match or whatever it was where Will was the heel and all that. So it actually lasted a number of years with some hiatuses there and everything. So yeah, that, you know, very important feud too for the region, for the entire region, not just the promotion it took place in, but for the entire region as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say that Progress is probably what it is because of that match, and the lasting effects of that as well, is that entire scene really. It's not because of this match, but this match definitely helped that scene grow, and in some cases, you know, helped it, you know, whatever it is right now, if you want to call it dead or dying or, you know, on life support or whatever, because that scene, you know, got so big so quick or whatever, and got scooped up by WWE so quickly as well. And a lot of that is because of Havoc and Ospreay, you know, played a huge role in that. And it's funny that like neither of those guys are, you know, really. I guess they're benefiting in their own ways with Havoc and AEW, and Ospreay, you know, obviously doing New Japan and all his stuff that he's still doing. But yeah, not caught up in the WWE machine necessarily. While the entire scene really did get caught up. So that was a list of the ones that really stood out to me in the replies that we had. I'm sure there's many more at Voices Wrestling or the Voices Wrestling Discord, voiceswrestling.com/Discord as well. If there's one that you think, oh my god, it had to be on the list, and you guys didn't mention it. I thought it was interesting. No Bullet Club versus Elite. Which like should have been a big feud, but just ended up not being anything. And like, I just thought we'd get enough Bullet Club fans or whatever that would come in there and say, yeah, it's got to be that. It's got to be Cody versus Kenny or Bullet Club versus Elite. But there's zero of that. I didn't see one mention of it.
I mean, I've got a couple I'd like your opinion on.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so you got some extras. All right.
Let's see. What do you think about Will Ospreay and Marty Scurll?
Oh, dude, yeah. No, it's got to be on there. Are you kidding?
Yeah, when you
Absolutely.
talk about...
Yeah, that's dumb on me for not including that. Absolutely.
That's one that was very similar to David Starr and Walter, maybe minus the same intensity, but in terms of one guy just unable to beat the other.
Right, and it takes place in what, I think we talked about this, like 6 different promotions or whatever over the course of like 4 years or so. It's some ridiculous thing too, where it's like, it's weird because it's not a straight line in a company or whatever, but like if you watch the matches and follow the progression and see what's happening in the matches, yeah, absolutely, it's got to be in there. But it doesn't hit the classic sort of pro wrestling feud that but it's kind of the new age. I think we even mentioned this on the show, even maybe a year or so ago, that it's like one of those new age pro wrestling feuds that doesn't know borders. Like it was in a bunch of different companies, but it still was the same feud, which is really cool.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this. Did Dragon Lee take his hair or his mask? I'm doubting. I think he took his mask, not his hair. We better clear that up before people start tweeting at us.
I'm sure it's already happened, Joe. You talked about.
What did I say? I said hair, right?
I think you said he took his hair.
I think that's wrong. I think he took his mask.
Yeah, I believe that is correct. But let me clarify before we get people that. I think you were right though. Yeah, I'll clarify as we go. But it was okay. So it was mask versus mask, and it looks like he took his.
Probably around 2015 or so. I'm gonna guess, or 2016. 2020. It was either 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, it was. So it was March. It was March 2015.
Kamatache started with a mask.
Correct.
So I think so he took his mask. He didn't take his hair. Okay. I think because after he took off the mask, he had like a shaved head. That for whatever reason,
that's that. You're right. I thought the same as well.
I thought he took his hair, but I think okay. So all right, stop tweeting at us.
We got it. We got it.
He took the mask, and then on the way out, Dragon Lee took the title back, and then Kamatache left, and he went back to America at that point. Took a while, I think, but then not America, Japan. What am I talking about? But they did have a match. Okay, so they had a match at Fantastica Mania, and then Hiromu went back to Mexico. I know that. And I think Dragon Lee took his title back, whatever fucking weight class they're in Mexico. Welterweight, lightweight, whatever the fuck. Then they had a random match in Ring of Honor, and then I think from there, Hiromu back in New Japan, and then away we go.
Right. Now any match that they have after that, the one in Ring of Honor was the last Ring of Honor or the last Kamatachi Dragon Lee match, and now obviously.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense. And then, because I think they've wrestled best as Super Juniors. They've been in the same block. Anyway, so Will and Marty was one I wanted to bring up. How about just in terms of a bell-to-bell in-ring, I could do anything you could do better, Will Ospreay and Ricochet?
Yeah, that one's weird where I don't know that
There's no hatred.
Right. There's not. It's just kind of a showcase between the two. Yeah, I don't think I can include it, unfortunately.
See, I'd put it in there just for I think that was a sort of, when you look back at the decade, those were pretty important, like, bell-to-bell matches. The Cork and Hall match is going to be a match that everybody remembers forever.
Right.
A lot of people didn't like it, but you'll remember it, whether you liked it or not, whether you agree with what they chose to do that night or not, and that broke through the wrestling bubble and got some mainstream attention for how viral it went. So how about Cena versus Owens?
Ooh, that one was great. That was a good feud between those two guys. Yeah, that's one that unfortunately gets kind of lost to time a little bit, which is weird because it was 2015, 2016 that was happening. But yeah, the series of matches between those two were great. It's just, I couldn't tell you any of the kind of stuff that happened in between the matches, but the matches themselves were tremendous. So that's maybe where it doesn't quite click on me, click with me on that top level, because I couldn't tell you the story between these two, but I can tell you that the matches they had were fucking great. So.
In terms of a superstar elevating a new guy, that's an element that this had.
Right.
That I think is pretty important. And then one more, I would say, this one's going back. Can't leave Dragon Gate out. How about Junction 3 versus what was the heel group at that time called?
Are you thinking of Mad Blanky or
No. When the entire promotion was split in two, was it Blood Warriors?
Ooh,
was it Blood Warriors versus Junction 3?
I believe you're correct, but yeah, let's before we are looking it up. 1 minute, 1 second before. Blood Warriors, correct?
Blood Warriors versus Junction 3.
Was Shima's? Shima's group was Blood Warriors. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he switched at some point.
Right.
So you're talking about an entire promotion split in two. And it carried on for an entire year. Like, it was one of their tentpole years. It was an awesome year, too. So you want to talk about a unique feud that drew money, and it was the only thing the company did all year was have one faction feud with the other. Everyone was split. There were a couple guys, I think, Super Sisha, although he may have even been Junction 3, I can't remember. But there were a couple guys who weren't on either side, but they were prelim level guys. Everybody else, it was 20 to a side, and it would just be those two factions paired off on every single show all year long, and it was fucking awesome. So I do think that one deserved mention too.
There's probably a few in Dragon Gate that were just not like classic Dragon Gate. I'm sure if someone told us, "Hey, what about that feud?" we would say, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, that belongs in there." But in classic Dragon Gate fashion, you just can't off the top of your head think about it. Yeah, but what do you got?
I'll give you another one. How about Shingo versus the old guys?
Oh yeah, that was good stuff.
when he went through them one by one. And then he gets to Shima. And Shima uses the signature holds of all of his defeated pals.
It's great. God, that rules.
Oh, my God. You want to talk about emotion and callbacks? You know, Shingo just cutting through the old dudes in what I think was Shingo's best run in the company. And then culminating with that Shima match. I mean, that was just, man, you know, it's just great stuff that has you super emotionally invested. And I just want to throw two minor ones out. I'm not suggesting these are contenders, but if you want to look at independent wrestling at the truly local level, right? The first part of the decade had Chase Owens versus Jason Kincaid, where they wrestled all over like the Appalachian region of the United States, the Smoky Mountain region, whatever you want to call it. And they even ended up having matches in Texas, like all the way down to Texas.
Right, yeah.
And they must have wrestled, I mean, on record, maybe 20 or 30 times, but like for real, they probably wrestled 100 times. You know, in every tiny fucking YMCA and VFW hall, everywhere in the fucking Smoky Mountain region. And, you know, those two guys, largely off of that rivalry they had with each other, turned that into major league jobs. You know, Chase Owens in New Japan, Jason Kincaid with that long DDT run and later working for Evolve. And then sort of the second half of the decade, in a feud that I'm not even sure it's over, again, a local level feud, would be Gary J versus Jake Parnell.
Yeah, right. I was about to bring that one up. It's a great pick.
All over the Midwest, right? Parnell now is doing this Warhorse thing, so he's kind of changed directions slightly gimmick-wise. And I'm not sure. I'm sure they're not done wrestling each other, but for about 3 years there, those guys were wrestling and headlining in every indie in the Midwest. Small, big, mid-size, didn't matter. And that feud really reminded me a lot of Kincaid and Owens. Not in style at all, because Kincaid and Chase Owens were clearly influenced by like 90s New Japan juniors, like a lot of people their age were, right? Like that's the kind of style of matches they were having. Gary J and Jake Parnell are making each other's chests bleed. You know, they're chopping each other and putting each other through tables and working stiff and beating the living shit out of each other. So the match styles are completely different, but what those feuds meant for their particular regions were, to me, mirror images of each other for one half of the decade and then the second half of the decade.
Real quickly, I just wanted to go over the Observer feud of the years that won each year to kind of see if we missed anything, and we really didn't. We kind of listed just about every one that won wrestling-wise. 2010 was Generico and Steen. We mentioned that one. 2011 was Cena versus Punk. We mentioned that one. 2012 and 2013 was Tanahashi versus Okada. Unfortunately, 14, 15, 16 is all Ultimate Fighting because the awards are mixed, so I don't need to mention any of those.
And pro wrestling just struggles with feuds, let's be honest.
Right, exactly. And that was a period that I'm sure on the show we said there's no good feuds in wrestling anymore. So like, you know, because a lot of these ones that we mentioned, if you really think about it, like Okada and Omega, I'm going to talk about right here, won in 2017. Okada versus Tanahashi, obviously that one speaks for itself. It won 2 times. Gargano and Ciampa is new. Star Devlin, Star Janela, Star Walter, new. The Dragon Lee Kamitachi thing is still relatively new in a lot of ways. Rush versus LA Park, as I said, that's still kind of, so a lot of these are like recent ones. There was a lull period there where just like it didn't feel like anybody was having really good feuds. So yeah, it makes sense why the UFC won those 3 years. 2017, as I mentioned, Okada versus Omega. And then 2018, Gargano versus Ciampa. So we'll see what wins in 2019. But I think we pretty much got every single one in there in some form or fashion. So good stuff there. So yeah, I enjoy these. I like talking about the positives of wrestling. And some people are like, hey, what's the worst match of the decade? Like, I have no interest in talking about the worst shit of the decade. I don't remember the worst shit. You know, I just remember the good stuff. So I have no the brain power to tell you what was terrible matches. There's a lot of terrible matches every week. So
yeah, I mean, I don't even know how I would even approach the worst match of the I have a hard enough thinking of the worst match of the year a lot.
No, I just forget about the worst matches. Like, unless they're like historically terrible or like, you know, really super, like Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, or The Fiend versus Seth Rollins in the Hell in a Cell, I'm going to remember forever because it was like so horrible. Just so awful. But like, there's probably worse matches that I see on a monthly basis, but it's like, it's in one ear out the other. It's like, who cares? You know, whatever. Who's got time for this shit? So, so it's only gonna be positive stuff than anything else we talk about moving forward on this decade stuff. But we got some other wrestling stuff to get into. Before we do that, Joe, I do want to let people know this is an ad-free show, so there's no ads this week. But we're gonna slip in one thing here real quick, and that is our Patreon. Joe, you want to tell people why they are so dumb for not subscribing to Patreon?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's stupid cheap because we are idiots and we only charge $5 a month for a mountain of content. There are now daily news roundups 2 to 3 times a week. I just posted one this past Monday with a few little exclusive bits. So you get those. Rich, you're starting to wrap up Kings of the Tokyo Dome. You only have a couple years left, right?
I'm getting there. Yeah, I got 4 years left, but I'm in the recent. It's so funny to go back and watch stuff that like you and I remember watching these matches, and I remember our takes and our reviews and our thoughts on this stuff. So it's really interesting to go back and watch because I'm in I just wrapped up the Nakamura versus Tanahashi from 2014. I'm going to have the Okada versus Tanahashi match next. Actually, a few Okada versus Tanahashi matches. So it's recent-ish stuff, but it's actually kind of fun now to go back and look 4 years ago and see, okay, what were the takes at the time? What did people think at the time? What was the reaction at the time? So it's really fascinating. And yeah, we're still seeing the effects of a lot of the stuff going on right now. So yeah, Kings of the Tokyo Dome, really fun series right now, and I'm having a blast doing it, and I'm hearing some really good feedback as well too. So.
Yeah, so you do those seasonally. You did the SummerSlam gimmick for a while, then you did the Fall Brawl recall. Now you got the Kings of the Tokyo Dome as we lead up to January 4th. And I'm sure you have something else up your sleeve for the spring.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's fun to kind of, because these are stuff that I do this anyway. I watch a lot of these shows during the time periods anyway. So why not have some fun and do a review with it too? So yeah, VOW retro content, really, really good stuff on there. You do the November to Remember as well. So it's not
the November to Remember, a long, slow, well-researched crawl through the entire history of ECW, starting with 1992 and ending with WWECW at the beginning of the next decade. So every piece of ECW footage will be reviewed, but it's really not so much about the match reviews as it is about the history and the lost stories. I'm not going to sit here and retell all the same old stories that you've heard a million times either. So we're about 7 or 8 episodes in. And I'm taking my time with them. So if you subscribe today, you got plenty of time to catch up. And I guarantee that you're going to learn something if you listen to November to Remember. And then Rich has the house call where he brings the nurse on, and they review a pro wrestling match through the eyes of someone who's not really a wrestling fan, who thinks we're all a bunch of geeks for watching this bullshit. And whenever this show runs long and we have to do an overrun, that ends up behind the paywall, so you never have to get shortchanged on the flagship. You will never miss a minute of the flagship if you're a subscriber as well. And then a whole bunch of other shit too. So, occasionally Rich and I will do an instant reaction show based on a major show or a major event in wrestling, where we go on and we talk live about what we just watched. We probably don't do as many as those as we should, but we occasionally do those. We've got Joe and Rich recommend matches to each other. There's a ton of evergreen content on there too. So it's not like, if you subscribe, you're just going to be sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting for us to put up news updates and things like that. There is a ton of shit to listen to that is evergreen, and it doesn't matter when you hear it because it's retro content or we're talking about older matches or whatnot. So that $5 not only gets you everything that we're going to do, that $5 gets you everything we have ever done. So it's insanely cheap. We definitely undervalued ourselves, but it's too late now. So take it.
We've made our bed, so make us feel stupid, which we're going to do any day. But yeah, we can't, there's no going back now, so just fucking subscribe, all right? Come on.
Take advantage of it, plunk down the $5 and give us a shot. So there you go.
Absolutely. And one last thing too, if you're doing any holiday shopping on Amazon, voicewrestling.com/Amazon, the same prices you would normally get on Amazon, but a small percentage comes back to us. So hey, if you're going to shop on Amazon, you might as well do voicewrestling.com/Amazon. All right, let us get to this. You talked a little bit about this in your Monday news update here. The Wrestle Kingdom 14 cards are out. If you want Joe's initial reactions, like immediately after the shows, you're going to definitely want to go in there. I feel like we're going to have a slightly muted Joe because I don't know if you're going to be as passionate as you were on that Monday recap. So if you want super, super passionate out of Joe on these Wrestle Kingdom shows and these cards or whatever, definitely the Monday review there on the patreon.com/voicewrestling or voicewrestling.com/Patreon. But
I forgot to mention, too, the Thursday TV reviews where we break down the ratings of the Wednesday night war every single week. And we are the first site, to my knowledge, to get that up because I've got that analysis up within an hour of the ratings coming.
Yeah, you're sitting there hitting refresh.
Okay, so,
you're sitting there hitting refresh on Showbuzz Daily or TV by the Numbers or whatever. And the second that's ready to go, you're recording. You have it up within the hour. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I take 20 minutes to evaluate it and find my angle, and then I break down all those ratings for you. We're the first site to have it up, so that's also behind the paywall. In addition to full reviews of both Dynamite and NXT as well. So those shows run about an hour, those Thursday TV reviews. And we will break down the Wednesday Night Wars as long as there is interest in it. Eventually the interest will fade, but for now people are into it. So we do that every Thursday afternoon, about 1 or 2 hours or so after the ratings drop. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
All right, let's get to these. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, on the Monday news roundup, I gave my initial thoughts on the Wrestle Kingdom card. So I'm going to kind of let Rich predominantly carry this one. But if I planned on doing it in the middle of the night on Sunday when the cards were announced, and I was fired up. And the only reason I didn't do audio right then in the moment is I would have woke everybody in the house up.
Screaming.
So I actually cooled off a little bit by the time, and then I just folded it into the Monday news update. You know what I mean? I just made it part of the update. So yeah, I was a little bit more subdued, but I don't want to sit here and repeat all the same points. Listen, you got to pay a premium for my thoughts.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Go get that Patreon. But so we haven't heard what Rich has to say yet. So how do you want to do this, Rich? Do you want to go down the cards for each day and then just break down each match? And then I'm sure we'll do it many other times until the 4th. But
yeah, this isn't going to be our full-on preview. We might talk about the matches a little bit, give some ideas. Initial thoughts. Yeah. But we'll have our official preview the week prior, obviously. So yeah, let's get right down to it. So we have night one, obviously the 2 night Wrestle Kingdom, January 5th and January 4th is going to be the 2 nights here. Night one kicks off with a Jushin Thunder Liger 8-man tag match. It's Liger, Fujinami, Sasuke, Tiger Mask versus Sano, Otani, Takiyawa, and Taguchi. So there's also some other guy. There's Honagawa is your referee. You got Taguchi's out there with Kobayashi. There's a bunch of, it's just a lot of dudes, a lot of old guys. Basically, Liger's having a bunch of drinks with his friends, and they're going to have a good old time. El Samurai is coming out as well. So yeah, there's going to be a ton of stuff in this match. And I have no issue with this. We're going to talk about the night 2, where maybe I have some issues, but like this is perfect. This is the exact way that I think the second to last Jushin Thunder Liger match should be. It's just Liger and all of his old fart friends hanging out, and then also Taguchi's there too. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he booked both of these matches himself. You know, he probably has that kind of agency to where they allow him to do that. We know that he booked the Super J Cup this year, so they trust him, and it's his retirement. So unless he walked into the office and said, "Hey, man, I want a title shot against Okada," they were going to let him do what he wanted to do. So yeah, this should be a shit ton of fun, and it's a chance to see some of these guys that a lot of people probably haven't seen in years. And yeah, it's going to have the cornermen as well. I think El Samurai is in one corner. I forget the other. Who's the other corner?
It's Kuniaki Kobayashi is going to be the other one. That's corner.
So, and then there's and then I think isn't it Fujiwara as the cornerman on night 2, or is it someone?
It is. So I don't see it listed on here, but I thought I thought I read that, but I don't see it listed on.
Yeah,
on here,
we'll figure
so I don't
it
know
out
officially if that's the case. But yeah, well, one thing I will tell you about matches like this is temper your expectations, though. Like, these guys are like Tatsumi Fujinami is not coming out and having just a spectacular, like, Great Sasuke might do something silly or whatever, but like always, because these things happen a lot on these like produce shows, like your Fujinami produce shows or whatever, or your Kenta Kobashi produce shows or whatnot. Like, these matches happen a lot, but really temper your expectations. Just go in thinking, hey, these are guys that are older and this is gonna be fun watching them, but really do not expect this to be like a tremendous good match, because it's like a lot of these guys are in their 50s and 60s, so it's like you gotta reel it in a little bit. So just a little bit of a forewarning there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not about match quality, obviously.
No, it's watching those guys come out and seeing those guys interact or whatever. It's about seeing the Great Sasuke tag in to Tatsumi Fujinami, which I'm here for, man. That I love. The Liger team is incredible. Liger, Fujinami, Sasuke, and Tiger Mask. Oh my god, I love it. So.
Yeah, Fujiwara. It's Yoshiaki Fujiwara cornering Sano and Liger. So,
got it. Okay.
On the second night. So yeah, so that those are the two, and both of those matches are opening up the shows. But anyway, well, let's stick with the 4th here.
Absolutely, yeah. And then so we have the second match on the 4th, and the one that you had much controversy about, and I kind of agree as well. We have LIJ, Evil, Sonata, Shingo, and Bushi versus Suzuki-gun, which is Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and El Desperado. It is an 8-man tag match. It is guys left in the stables, guys that don't have feuds, guys that don't have singles matches. But the two glaring names that stick out there, guys that you look at night 2, and we're going to talk about it here in a bit, Shingo and Minoru Suzuki. This is it for them. And really, by proxy, I guess you can add Taichi to that too. That's it for these guys. Shingo and Minoru, they mentioned that they were going to, you know, there was kind of that hint that there was going to be a singles feud between these guys, that maybe we get a singles match. And that's not to say we might not. We might still get that on night 2, but I don't know, man. I think this might be it for them. And if that's the case, that absolutely sucks, especially because this match is just a nothing. It's just a, here's guys left on the card. And it's disappointing when you have 2 shows. When you have 2 Wrestle Kingdoms, here's everybody that's left on the card. I don't know. It's hard to be positive about this. I gotta take him to task for this. I can't let this go because this is really in my mind really bad booking in case of Shingo and in case of Minoru Suzuki really having nothing else to do, but just being this random ass 8-man tag just to fill out the card.
I think we'll lump in the next one too, which is Chaos versus Bullet Club. It's Yoshihashi, Toru Yano, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroki Goto versus Chase Owens, Yujiro, Bad Luck Fale, and Kenta. So what you have here are 2 8-man tags, which my first problem is you've got to have a better plan for Shingo and Tomohiro Ishii across 2 shows than 1 8-man tag each. I mean, to me, that is as close to inexcusable as you're going to get. I mean, you can't. You've got 2 shows, Rich. If it was 1 show, I get it. People get left off every year. And what is my defense every year of that? Not just with Wrestle Kingdom, but with WrestleMania as well.
Yeah, too fucking bad. Yeah. Like, be better. Be great. Yeah.
Get over next year and you'll get on the show. Get over next year and they'll take you out of the Battle Royal. Get over next year and they'll take you out of the 8-man tag. So I'm being consistent, but with 2 shows, there's more than enough room on these shows to make sure that all of the people who deserve to be featured are featured. Do you know how I know that, Rich? Because they had room for 2 8-man tags. And if you have room for 2 8-man tags that nobody cares about, there's not a person on earth who cares about either one of these matches. If you have room for these 2 matches, then you have room for a couple more matches that are meaningful that people will care about. Okay? Because you've got 2 shows. So to me, it's a bad job. Now, with that said, this is the sort of asterisk I'll put on that. If both of these matches end up resulting in angles, either to build to something on the next day, or even if they don't build to us, even if we don't get Shingo and Minoru Suzuki the next day, but there's a big angle. Maybe Suzuki Gun turns on Suzuki in this match and they do a big angle and write Suzuki off, right? And pay off all these rumors that he doesn't want to be in the company anymore. Then I'm okay with it. Right. I will come on this show and I will apologize to Lord and Savior Gato, the greatest booker of this generation, for pulling the wool over my eyes and delivering something meaningful anyway, right? And they might do angles with both of these matches. But if they go out there and have 2 7-minute matches that are totally inconsequential with Chase Owens eating a pinfall, like it's fucking Destruction and Bipu or something, then no. You don't do throwaway 8-man tags on Wrestle Kingdom. You don't do it. This isn't New Beginning. This isn't Destruction. This isn't Road to whatever the fuck. Okay, this is Wrestle Kingdom. You give me big time matches on this show. You don't give me 8-man tags. So to me, it's almost inexcusable. You give me some angles, I give Gato a call. I apologize. But until then, this is bullshit.
One thing that I look at, and the symmetry of these 2 shows is night 1 shows 8 matches, and that's pretty well locked in. We kind of think that that's probably going to be it, that they're probably not going to add anything more to this. And night 2, right now, has 8 matches. So people saying, oh, well, it's probably going to be, maybe Shingo and Suzuki are going to have a match on night 2. I don't really think so. Where's the room for that on night 2? Like, how long is night 2 going? Like, they have 8 matches already. There's some are still to be decided, but there's 8 matches on that show. And like, the idea that it's like, they'll just lump this into the next night or this into the next night. Like, I don't think that's the case. So I think what's more likely is, like you said, that there is some sort of angle where Taichi and it takes over Suzuki Gun and then they kick Suzuki out or Sonata turns on Evil, like some shit like that. Who knows? Like, what the hell they're going to do?
Whatever. As long as there's some kind of angle.
Yeah, you want something out of this. But like the idea that this is going to build to something the next night, I think take that out of the conversation completely. Like, where is the spot for that on night 2? The night 2 is already loaded with shit. I don't think they have a space anymore. Like, night one's the one that has space. Like, that's the problem, is night two does not have space. Night two is loaded with singles matches, loaded with important matches. Night one is the one where you would do that. So this idea that, like, oh, you could just move something from night one over to night two. No, night one is like your night that needs a little bit of filler, and they filled it with, as you said, these just kind of meaningless, stupid, boring, nobody gives a shit 8-man tag matches, and that's what we're left with. So our only hope is that, yeah, there's some angles involved in these matches, but if they're just like paint by numbers, 10-minute, get in, get it out, 8-man tags, like, I'm gonna be super disappointed, because like you said, that stuff doesn't belong on Wrestle Kingdom, and especially not with this talented of a roster, this deep of a roster, and especially with the 2 nights as well. It's like, you can get every single person that deserves to be in a featured match on these 2 nights. And they just chose, in a lot of cases, between Shingo, Suzuki, I'll add Taichi to that too. I'm not a huge fan of Taichi, but he's had a fantastic year. You can add Tomohiro Ishii to that as well, who's just like guys that are just kind of there. And they're just kind of, I don't really have much issue with Evil. I guess you can add Evil in there too. Like, you feel like he should probably have, something a little bit more. Like, I can get by him a little bit more than the other guys, but yeah, you could argue that he should be in a bigger spot as well. So yeah, everybody else feels like they have a bigger spot or don't deserve it, but yeah, those 4 guys really stand out as like, all right, like, this is the best you could do for them. Like, it's just, I don't know, it feels a little, it just kind of pisses me off a little bit. I feel like there's just this is filler. Like, we don't need filler on this show.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom should never have filler. Okay, you got 2 shows, there's plenty of room, and it's I think people are working themselves into a shoot a little bit. Like you're saying, there's just not enough time on that second show to start adding matches to it from night one. I would love for them to do that, and I will be thrilled if they do that, and I hope that they do that, but I'm with you. I don't really see that happening. I'll be pleasantly surprised if it does. If we just get Bushi and Chase Owens eating a fall in an 8-minute match, right. I mean, Rich, that's destruction shit. That's fucking Road 2 shit. That's wrestling Dontaku shit. That is not Wrestle Kingdom. It's just not befitting of these shows. And you're doing a double dome. You want it to be special. And this just rubs me the wrong way. And I'm sure that we will rant on it further in the coming weeks.
All right, next we have the IWGP Tag Team title match. We got the Guerrillas of Destiny defending the titles against Juice Robinson and David Finlay, the winners of the World Tag League, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw that final, right? The World Tag League final?
I did.
Tremendous match. Really good match, and really kind of a star-making performance for David Finlay as well. He's a guy that has never quite clicked with me on that big level, but this, I thought, was a tremendous match. Probably his best performance yet in New Japan. But yeah, they get a chance at the Guerrillas of Destiny, and unfortunately, as a result of a booking on night 2, I'm really not excited about this match anymore, because it's just, I kind of feel I know what the result is. Like, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, Finn Juice does win, but given, what Juice is doing on night 2, I don't know. It feels a little weird to me that they would announce Juice for a title match on night 2. So that irks me a little bit as well, because if it was just these guys and there wasn't that match on night 2, I would tell you, oh, I'm all in on Finn Juice getting that win and David Finlay hoisting the title up and recovering from his injury and Juice Robinson doing this and a new exciting tag team to kind of break up the thing. But I don't know. Is Juice going to be, possibly a double champion or going for 2 titles in 2 straight dome matches? It's a little weird. So I hate that those matches kind of got booked at the same time, and I don't know if you have the similar take as well about that. But
I mean, this is kind of my point. We have enough room on these shows for Juice Robinson to have 2 big time matches, and I don't even have a problem with that necessarily. Good for Juice, but Juice gets to be in 2 featured spots, and Shingo, Tomohiro Ishii, and Minoru Suzuki don't get 1. This is, it's like, that's kind of my point to what we just ranted about. I don't understand it. You could take away that Juice faces the winner match, and you could have done Shingo Suzuki. And then if you must, you can still do your dopey 6-man tag between LIJ and Suzuki Gun, right? You don't even have to take that match away. You can just take Shingo and Minoru Suzuki out of it and do that as a singles match on night 2. So there was a million different ways out of this, which again, Rich, is why I think we might be getting a big angle in that Suzuki Gun match. Then it will all make sense. But again, maybe I'm working myself into a shoot with that as well.
Yeah, we're going to find out on those late December shows, because they do a pretty good job of sort of getting you ready for stuff. So hopefully, we see maybe, Taichi giving Suzuki a side eye or something like that, or, a little bit of tension there. I don't know exactly what, but yeah, hopefully something like that.
But to your point, I mean, if Finn Juice loses to God, then Juice is going to beat whoever he faces the next night.
Right, which I think is going to happen. That's why I'm kind of expecting that to happen, which is why I'm kind of not excited about this God versus FinJuice match too, because like I think the best culmination of the story is that FinJuice wins this title, and like I guess they do that, but then it feels so weird that Juice then the next night after just winning this title goes and loses a shot at that. Like it's just wonky and weird. I just don't get it. It's strange.
I'll be rooting for FinJuice. And then at least it leaves the outcome of the next night a bit in doubt. And plus, Guerrillas of Destiny are totally played out.
Yeah, oh, dear God. Please, FinJuice, win this title match, please. God, going back and looking, I'm getting ready for the ebook, New Japan Pro Wrestling ebook that we do every single year as well. And going through the Guerrillas of Destiny and their tag title run, and it's just like, oh my God, how boring is this run? They just have the titles forever. It's just they just have the titles and they like kind of defend them, but not really. And the matches are no good. And it's just like, good God, like this division stinks.
I mean, the best stuff they did was with the Briscoes, probably when it comes to promos, and then. You know, at least one of the matches, I can't remember both, but at least one of the matches was really good. But the problem with that is everyone had hand-waved Ring of Honor at that point.
Right.
So no one was really paying attention. But and I guess we can lump in the Texas Death Match, the IWGP US title, because we're talking about Juice anyway. And that's the next match on the show, and that's Lance Archer defending against Jon Moxley. Moxley attacked Archer and Suzuki and all those guys. Flew to Japan to shoot
Can we talk about that? How awesome is Jon Moxley, man? Because the best thing is they did the hint where he comes up on the video board and he's talking shit on the video board, and you're thinking, all right, yeah, it's Moxley. And then he's out there. And it's like, dude, this dude flew to Japan to cut an egg. I love Jon Moxley. This dude is like fucking loving life right now. You know what I mean? Like he just loves being in pro wrestling again. Because, like, imagine telling, like, who in the world, like, no long-term vet that's been around forever or whatever is going to say, yeah, sure, I'll get on a fucking flight, get off, attack a guy, and get back on a plane and go home. But he's like, fuck yeah, I got to do it. Like, that's awesome. Like, good for him, man. That's how you know you love this business. If you're willing to jump on a plane to cut an angle. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's into it. He's into what he's doing. And Archer's obviously one of the breakout stars in all of pro wrestling this year. And they're going to have a plunder match, and you know, both of those guys can do plunder. And listen, I could tell you that I mean, Lance Archer, he is going to be out in a singles match on Wrestle Kingdom defending a title. And, you know, if you saw him in the G1, especially the Will Ospreay match in Dallas, you know, he's going to be out to put in a performance of a lifetime here. He's going to, and Moxley always gives you good effort. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's just, why does the winner of this have to win two matches?
Right, yeah, that fucking sucks. Yeah, it's like,
I don't understand that. Like, why does Juice...
And what did Juice do to deserve this?
What did Juice do to earn this advantage to where he only has to win one match, but these two guys have to win two? One of them is the champion, and the other never lost his title in the ring.
Right.
But those two guys have to win two matches to come away with the belt. And Juice, who lost the title in the ring, okay, he only has to win one. It's just, look, are the matches going to be good? Almost certainly. No matter what combination you get in the second match. But again, the booking is shaky.
Right, we got to be fair. And for all those idiots that say we don't fucking ever criticize, listen to this show, because here's us criticizing the booking. Yeah.
Or listen to any show, but
right.
yeah,
I mean, but they're dopes. Yeah, well, they're fucking idiots.
They're fucking idiots, of course. Yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't love it. I'd much rather have Shingo and Suzuki in that spot on the second show.
So, one thing I did want to bring. Oh, sorry. Finish your thing, and then I'll bring it.
I wasn't going to say anything important. I was just going to say, but I guess when it all plays out, maybe it'll all make sense and we'll look stupid. But
right, that's likely to. That's happened a few times. Texas Death Match. Are we getting a last man standing match, or what are we getting with this Texas Death Match? Because there are a few different types.
Yeah, they haven't really laid that out. I think it's just, I mean, all I can do is guess like you. I just think it's going to be no rules, and they're just going to fight all over the fucking building. But I don't know if it's going to be the old 10 count. I don't know if it's going to be until one man can no longer continue. I don't know if there's going to be like falls count anywhere.
Right, because we've never established what exactly. Like a lot of different territories have used the Texas Death Match different ways.
I think Dave Meltzer. I think Dave Meltzer made that point.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I think he talked about how it's different everywhere you go, and we don't know what the fuck this is in New Japan. So you're right. I don't know either. I mean, they haven't explained it, and maybe they. I mean, when will that? I mean,
who knows?
At some point, they need to tell us what the fucking rules are, right?
I don't know, man. I just the one thing I bring up is if it is a you answer the 10 count type like last man standing match or whatever, then why is this not a deep sleep to lose match? You know, because now we're talking. That's a stipulation you can set your watch to. The deep sleep to lose match was that Wrestle Kingdom 6 or whatever.
Was that with Tenzan?
Yeah, it was Tenzan. let's find out exactly what the deep
Tenzan with the anaconda vice. And Makabe, wasn't it?
I believe that was the case. Yeah, I believe it was. Or was Izuka in that one? No, Izuka. I think Izuka might have been in that one. Let me find out exactly what that was. Okay, Wrestle Kingdom 5. We had a deep sleep to lose match. It was Tenzan versus Izuka. Yeah. The match could only be won by choking the opponent unconscious. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great
match stipulation right there. Deep sleep to lose. That's fucking.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big match stip guy, but that one was. First of all, it's funny. And second of all, it's like you got to choke your man to the point of almost death. So
kill your opponent, make him pass out via strangulation, and then you have won your match. So that's
now, Rich. That's how you end a feud.
Yeah, you literally nearly your opponent is nearly dead, and you just lay him in the ring. Lay him in the ring unconscious, and you walk to the back, slapping hands with the crowd on the way. That you've won.
Yeah, this isn't L.A. Park Rouge where no one ever wins and they never end it. This is you end the feud by attempting to kill the man. So yeah, that's Texas Death Match. We'll have to see what that's all about. And then obviously the back half of this. I mean, you could really start with the Texas Death, and the last 4 matches on this thing are just going to be, fucking stupid good. It's the old Wrestle Kingdom closing stretch that we always talk about, where either the last 4 or 5 matches, they're just going to be progressively one better than the other. It's just pretty sick, because now we've got Will Ospreay defending against Hiromu. And listen, as we've talked about, these are 2 guys that are highly motivated to go out there and steal the entire fucking weekend. And when you're talking about 2 guys like this, where Hiromu is just out of his fucking mind and he's insane, and Will Ospreay is he usually steals the show anyway when he's not pissed off about his card placement. I mean, the ceiling for this is 5 stars. How can it not be? Anything below 4, this is one of those matches, unfortunately, where anything below like 4.5 is a disappointment.
Right. I'm fully expecting coming on the show and saying, Joe, it didn't quite reach the levels that I wanted. 4.5. One of those where.
Yeah. If this isn't a surefire match of the year candidate, you're going to be let down. And it's one of those matches where the bar is so high that it's almost a certainty that you're going to be disappointed. At least that's how I feel about it. And that's not even knowing if Hiromu can go anymore. Let's not forget that the man had a broken neck. Now, he's going to wrestle a couple times in Corkin Hall, which, by the way, that bothers me too.
Yeah, I don't love it. Don't love it. Go ahead. Yeah, because I'm right with you. But yeah, go ahead.
How the fuck is this not his return match? Why is he wrestling in Corkin Hall? And you're you're stripping the nature of his return.
Right, have him go if you want to get him ring time and get the ring rust off, then just put him to the fucking dojo and have him wrestle, Uemura a few times to get ready or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if that's the concern and get the cardio up or whatever, I get that. But yeah, oh my god, he's got to walk through the curtain, come in it's ridiculous. Like it's a layup. We talked about the Seth Rollins layup. This is the layup that his first return, his first time stepping through the ropes and getting in the ring is in the fucking Tokyo Dome. Or what are we doing here? Come on.
You're totally taking the edge off his return, and the other thing you're doing is why is he wrestling Will Ospreay before this match? Why? That's the other thing too. I think he's on the opposite side of a tag with him. They should not fucking touch until the Dome. Hiromu should not wrestle until the Dome. He needs to come out and make that ring walk in the Dome, and they need to stand off in the center of the ring while people take pictures and fucking chant and do a dual chant before they even lay a finger on each other. How are you putting him in Corkin Hall those 3 nights and letting these 2 guys wrestle each other before this match? Rich, that is unacceptable. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that.
Yeah, so, I don't love it. Yeah, I'm the same way as you. It's just like it's ready made for that to be his return, and let that be the big moment, and yeah, just the idea like these guys are going to touch before that. Like, you want to see the first thing that these guys do is the bell rings and they just go at, you know what I mean? Like, because the vision in my head is that Hiromu is not wrestled. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know what he is. We don't know how healthy he is or whatever. The bell rings and he just goes and just does that flying drop kick right to Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay goes in the corner. He does the fucking barrel roll into the corner, and it just proves to you in the first 13 seconds of the match, I'm fucking back. I'm Hiromu, baby. You know what I mean? Like, that's the moment right there. That's the moment, and they're going to take that away.
Yep.
For no reason. Like, it's
no reason whatsoever.
It's really bizarre. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to sell out Cork and Hall anyway. You don't need it. You know, I understand it's a main event and all that, and I get it, but it's like, I don't know. You're really taking away some of what was going to be special about this match. So, and then the 7th and 8th match, of course, of the 2 tournament matches.
Yep.
The Intercontinental match and then the IWGP match. Jay White, Naito, you know, it's Jay White, and Jay White sort of has a self-imposed cap on how good his matches can be because they're very gimmick heavy. His character work comes before his ring work. I think that's the best way to put it. As far as Okada and Ibushi, I mean, again, this, much like Will Ospreay and Hiromu, this has an opportunity to be a match of the year contender, and I don't expect anything less. I expect these two guys to go out there and have an extremely high level match that is on everybody's spreadsheet the entire year. So that's how I view these two. As far as the winners, Rich, I'm sticking with it. I think Tetsuya Naito defeats Kazuchika Okada on night 2 and, redeems himself from 2016 or 17? 17, right?
17, yeah.
And redeems himself from, getting a little too cocky at the end of the match in 17, getting ahead of himself. And the Naito fans finally get a chance to rejoice. That's what I think we're going to get. What I think that people are discounting far too much is Jay White winning both nights.
I agree.
I think that's
my number 2. That's my number 2. I think if I was a betting man, gun in my head, whatever you want to say, it's Naito over Okada at the end of night 2. My number 2 choice is Jay White winning. Regardless of who, if it's Ibushi, it doesn't matter. It's Jay White standing tall in the middle of the Tokyo Dome while Gato points and laughs at the camera.
Yes, and I think that this has Chris Jericho beating Steve Austin and The Rock in one night written all over it. Same story, and it's like, similar place in their careers and their characters as well. If you really want to take
that's
it
a great poll. That's a great poll. That match for sure. That event that night. Yeah,
this is over 2 nights, but it's the same idea. And it'd be, just as shocking and surprising, but it's totally a move I could see them pulling. And that's my number 2. And I think everyone is discounting White. Okada is Okada. It's like, who would be shocked if he rainmakers 2 of these fucking geeks and stands tall? It's Okada. You see how they treat him. Ibushi, he wins the G1 and he's under contract now. There's good arguments for Ibushi. Naito obviously has got to be the odds-on favorite, and the story is right there, right? It was his idea to do the tournament. He gets to avenge the loss to Okada. The story just makes too much sense for Naito. What everyone is discounting is Jay White spoiling the party for everyone. And quite honestly, I don't think that's the worst story.
Yeah, it's like people are very upset that when you even bring up that idea, and like I kind of like I'm sarcastically bringing it up a lot because I just want it to be in the conscience that like that is something like legit. I think that is the number 2 most possible scenario of them. Like I have Kota Ibushi like we talk about standing tall, the final moment of Wrestle Kingdom after night 2 or whatever, in the middle of the ring with the confetti falling. I have dead last Kota Ibushi doing it. Like I would put him at almost 0 odds to do it. I just don't. Like you said, there's arguments to be made for it. I just don't see it. He's probably gonna do it now, and he's gonna make me look like an idiot. But he's the one I have probably 4th. Okada, I probably have 3rd because, like you said, it's still Okada. He's still the biggest star in the company. But I have Naito very, very close to Naito in there because or White very close to Naito there because it just, like you said, it works. It's a great way to put heat on Jay White. You have 4 built-in matches or 3 built-in matches between White and all these guys down the line as well. He's just such an gigantic prick that you could see, that issue going in there. And we always talk about it too. And I do want to bring this up again, and we'll bring it up as we kind of get closer and have some more ideas of what the tickets are going to look like. But, from everything we've heard is that the tickets look really good for night 2. And This isn't me saying that this is the right story to do, and maybe it's not the right thing to do, but we talked about it when we first talked about the show. They have never told you you're going to get Okada versus Tetsuya Naito. You can buy a ticket thinking that's what you're going to get, but they never told you you're going to get that. And if you are buying a ticket to get Okada versus Naito, and you're prepared to go into that Tokyo Dome to see those guys, you have to leave the possibility that you bought a ticket, they looked at the tickets and said, hey, fuck, we sold out Tokyo Dome already. Hell, fuck it. Let's do Okada versus Naito at Dominion. Let's hold it off a little bit. Why do it right now? We've already sold the tickets. I don't know if I would have the balls to do that, but this is a company that's had balls to do some pretty risky stuff. And Gato has had the balls to do some really risky stuff too. Again, not what I'm going to do, but don't discount that being a possibility as well, is that they look at it and go, hey, look, we already sold at the Dome. Why bother doing this Okada Naito thing right now? We'll wait and do it. It might be too cocky and you might get a lot of pissed off fans, but this is a company that has done that before. So just keep it in mind.
We've had that conversation, and it's and I agree. I mean, if you can't be mad if you bought a ticket to see Naito Okada and you don't get it. You cannot be mad. They've never advertised that match. And then, it's like, to me, if that show sells out before the 5th, you're wasting the biggest money match you have by doing that match on a show that was already sold out. You're wasting it. So they kind of put themselves in that position. And you could make the argument that those tickets are selling because people are presuming they're going to see Okada Naito. So in reality, that match is selling the tickets, right?
Right, for sure.
But to me, I look at it the other way. If I'm the promoter, if I'm the booker or the promoter, I feel like I'm wasting the match because I never advertised it and the tickets are sold anyway. And maybe, but the other thing is, and at that point you're like, well, maybe we change our plans and we fuck it. Well, let's make sure we use that match to sell tickets at another time next year. Or,
right. For better or for worse, I mean, pro wrestling is all about a real pro wrestling business about getting you to pay for the next show.
Selling tickets. That's right.
Yeah. It's getting you to pay for that next show, the next time, the next time they come to your town, it's all about delivering on a good show, but they want you leaving going, fuck, I got to get there for the next show.
Yeah, you want to tell a satisfying story and give and give people a good show, but what's the purpose of the satisfying story and to sell tickets? It's all about selling tickets. So you can never lose sight of that. So it's weird to me that they would potentially save this match for 2 years and then put it in a position where they ultimately didn't use it directly to fill the house. And it does give you some pause. With that said, this tends to be a company that plots out their big picture stuff well in advance, and they never really deviate from the plan, even when it looks like it's a bad idea. We have history that shows that. So they're not the kind of company, and Gato's not the kind of booker who just changes on a whim. So if his plan was Okada Naito, I think he's just going to stick with it.
Right. It's hard to believe that he's going to walk in on January 4th and go hey, what's the advance for the 5th? And they say it's sold out. And he goes, all right, fuck it. White, you're the winner. That's wild. That's not exactly how he's done stuff. So
no, because he very likely has the rest of his year and next year's Wrestle Kingdom plotted out already. And if he changes course, it fucks up everything that he's got plotted out. So, I mean, it's more than likely he knows his G1 winner and he has a good idea of next year's Wrestle Kingdom main event, and he probably knows his main events for Dominion and King of Pro Wrestling. At minimum, he knows those 4 things. And it's like, to change it within 24 hours, you're fucking up the whole year. And that just hasn't been their MO. If this was WWE, 1,000,000% they would base the finish based on how the tickets were selling.
Oh, for sure. Or out of the curtain, Vince would have a wrinkle in his head and he goes, you know what? Fuck it. Naito, you're losing. Like, what? All right.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be no question. And other companies too. I'm not even condemning WWE here, and I'm not picking a side. Look, I'm all about do what you got to do to sell tickets without being fraudulent and without, misadvertising, which they aren't doing. That's fine to me. I don't even have a problem with it, but I just don't think, based on the way that they do things, that they would pull a move like that. But I mean, the one thing I think we will not see is Jay White and Ibushi win on night 1, because I don't think you do Okada Naito in the geek match the next night. I don't think you do that. Especially if Naito, because that's a real gut punch to the Naito fans.
Yeah.
None of them will give a fuck if he beats Okada night 2 in the dopey third place match that, I understand the winner of that's going to get a title shot, but Rich, does anybody care about the third place? I mean, come on. It's it'll probably be a great match no matter who's in it, but it really doesn't have the any kind of juice. And I don't think they would waste Okada Naito in that spot.
All right, then we'll move on to night 2 here. So we have January 5th, night 2. We'll start out with a Jushin Thunder Liger's final match. It's Liger and Sano versus Ryu Lee and Hiromu Takahashi. Liger's final match, retirement match. What do you think about it being a tag match?
I've come around on it because the symbolism of it all with the rivals from one generation and the rivals from the current generation in a tag match against each other. I think it's a real vote of confidence for both Lee and Takahashi to be put in a match like this as partners against these two guys. And more than likely, Liger booked all of this. So initially I was upset that he wasn't going to be in a singles match, but when you take all of those things into consideration, I can't be upset. I was not thrilled with the idea of a 3-way. I really didn't want that to happen.
Agreed.
So I'm way less angry about, this than I would have been about a 3-way. And I'm really not angry at all about this. I think this is, I've really come around on the idea of this match.
You stole my thunder, because that was going to be the exact thing I was going to say. Is like, initially I was like, fuck that. God damn it. God. And I was like, you know what? This is actually really, really cool, because what it is the symbolism of Liger and Sano, the big, huge rivals during their career against Lee and Takahashi, were huge rivals. And then you also have the idea that, that Jushin Thunder Liger, and this is kind of what his career has been over the last few years, is that he wants to put that next generation over. He wants that next generation to be the superstars. He wants to do everything he can for that next generation to be everything they can be. And it's obviously him saying that he thinks that the former Dragon Lee or whatever, and Hiromu Takahashi, that those guys are like the next, phase of the junior heavyweights in New Japan. And when you realize that, and you realize kind of the symbolism of Liger, who I don't think, because they probably, like you said, they probably let Liger do whatever he wanted to do, and Liger probably wanted this stuff. He doesn't want to have a singles match against whoever and beat him. That's just not been Jushin Thunder Liger's MO over the last few years. So when you understand that, he probably had a hand in this, that there's a little bit of symbolism in here, and that it's in many cases a passing of the torch moment, I'm absolutely fine with it. Would I have preferred Liger versus Hiromu, or Liger versus Lee? Maybe, but this is pretty damn good too. So I can't complain, and I really have come around on it, and I'm really kind of enjoying it now at this point. So I really cannot wait to see this, and it's gonna be obviously emotional with Liger, on the way out. So I can't wait to see what they do here. But yeah, that was my hot take, is that I came around on it. So it helped a little bit. I mean, when I heard that one of the ideas is a 3-way, then I would have hated a 3-way to be the final. Hated that. So I love this a lot more than that option. So.
And remember, keep in mind that his ceremony is the next day at Dash. So they're doing a big going away ceremony for him too at New Year Dash. So this is like you'll see him one more time, like in the gear.
Right.
All that shit. So but this will be the last match.
All right, then we have the junior heavyweight tag title match here. We got Bullet Club, Taiji Ishimori, and El Phantasmo defending the titles against Roppongi 3K, the winners of the Super Junior Tag League for the 9th straight year, I believe. Thoughts on this match initially? It's going to be really good. I kind of want Ishimori and Phantasmo to win, because I'm really kind of sick of Roppongi 3K being the tag title champs and being at the top of that division. But it's pretty likely that the Roppongi 3K probably wins this, right?
Yeah, they'll probably win the match. I think that Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori are dark horse tag team of the year.
Really good. They're great. Yeah, you go back and look at some of the matches. I was going back and getting ready for the end of the year stuff, and looking back at a lot of the stuff I rated during the Super Junior Tag League between this, and that team's awesome. That team definitely exceeded what I even expected out of them, and then even more when I went back and looked at the matches, and we're like, fuck, this is a really good team. Yeah,
the feud with Birds of Prey was just very good stuff. 3 out of the 4 matches were excellent, high level matches. There's really not a ton of other contenders. I know you have the Axis tag team in Noah. You have the Violent Giants, who we'll talk about a little bit later too. Not a ton of teams. The Young Bucks are always going to be contenders, but they spent a lot of the year not wrestling, so it wasn't exactly their best year. You actually made a case for the Rock and Roll Express last week, which shows you how this isn't exactly a deep category this year. The Usos have been on the shelf because I don't want to accuse the wrong one. Who's the guy that has the DUI issues? Is it Jimmy or Joe?
I believe it. Fuck.
One of them has DUI issues. I don't want to accuse the wrong guy.
You're right. I think it is. Believe it is Jay, but let me confirm. Jimmy. It is actually Jimmy. Sorry, Jay.
Jimmy. Okay. Yeah. That's the last thing. You don't want to accuse someone of that if they have no issue. You know what I mean? But they've been on the shelf because of Jimmy. You said
Jimmy. Correct.
Because of Jimmy's, personal issues or whatnot with his drinking and driving. So they're usually in the mix, but they're not really in the mix, and there's just not a ton of contenders. I guess you got the Lucha Bros, you throw them in there, and, I don't know, Santana and Ortiz if you want, but I think they're right in there, Phantasmo and Ishimori. And as for Roppongi 3K, I mean, I'm on record. I think this should be their last year as a team. I think we're ready to split these guys up and do whatever you're going to do with them as singles. And, I think Show, especially if Will Ospreay, if this is it for him as a junior, if this is it for Will, and he's not on night 2. Okay. So we've seen them before, especially at Wrestle Kingdom. A guy loses that junior title and then moves on to bigger and better things. Kenny Omega being a good example. Maybe Will Ospreay loses to Hiromu, which I think he will, and disappears on night 2. And maybe they do a big angle with him at Dash or whatever, and he just moves up to heavyweight. And that leaves a spot and some openings for guys like Robbie Eagles and a guy like Show, and somebody like Yo, So maybe, for me, this would be the last year date team. You give them one definitive run with these titles starting here, split them up toward the end of the year, and make Show one of your, future aces of the division. And, Yo, I think, maybe he goes heel and joins LIJ to pay off that big story. Who knows? But getting ahead of myself, I just feel like you, I've got some Roppongi 3K fatigue.
Yeah, I'd be real bored if they just win this match and it's just like, all right, yeah, this guy again. Because I'm right with you. I want the track to them breaking up is what I want right now, and that track works a little bit better if they lose this match here, possibly. So. Here goes down here. British Heavyweight title here. Zack Sabre Jr. against Sonata. So Sonata gets his big singles match. You were correct in your prophecy from 2016. I think that this was going to be the big Sonata year, and we kind of see the culmination of that in this Wrestle Kingdom match. A big time match. A big time singles match for a big title. Potential for him even winning this title as well, which would be really cool. But this is a huge moment for Sonata, and we've seen the growth in 2019, and he clearly has leaped past Evil, and now is it's setting up for 2020 to be a year where he really is like one of the top guys. And not that he wasn't in 2022 or 2019 as well, because he was in plenty of big time singles matches and big time main events and whatnot too. So
it's 4 matches with Okada.
Exactly. Like he's already leaped Evil. I mean, that like the idea that I'm seeing a lot of that of like, oh, Sonata's ahead of Evil right now. And it's like, no, he's been ahead of Evil for a long time here. But yeah, this is even more of a culmination of like, okay, he's getting the big time singles match in Wrestle Kingdom and Evil's just, in the 8-man. So that tells you where they're at there. So yeah, Sonata moving on. And I would not be surprised if he wins this match either. It'd be pretty cool to have him do that as well. Get a few matches out of it and whatnot. But yeah, this one can go either way, really. But
yeah, it's the Rev Pro title. You can do whatever you want with it. But the thing with Sonata is he has a featured singles match at Wrestle Kingdom, and Evil, Shingo, Suzuki, Ishii do not. And that tells you all you need to know about what they think of him. And look, if you're one of these people that does not like Sonata, and I get it, you're going to be seeing a lot more of them, and they're going to push this guy, and he's going to be a major star here. And it's like I hesitated a few weeks ago, and I will lay this out that I do not have this confirmed. I do not have it confirmed, but the word on the street is he is now signed to a contract as well. And if that's the case, this all makes sense because you know how they are. They wait around until you put your name on paper, especially now with being on WWE's radar, especially. But even before then, they were the same way. They wait around until you're under contract and you're officially got that lion mark, and then they pull the trigger on you. So that appears to be the case with Sonata. And, he's right up their alley for what they like in a wrestler. He's got the look that they like. He has the size that they like. And, you don't have 4 matches in 1 year with Okada, right? And beat him in one of them. And they have plans for this guy.
Absolutely.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Then we have a bunch of to-be-decided matches coming up here. So we have the first of the to-be-decided. It's the winner of Archer and Moxley versus Juice Robinson. We talked about that one a little bit on night one, so I don't think we need to go into any more detail there. Kenta versus Hiroki Goto. Joe, oh my God.
Oh, you go first. People heard me rant already.
So I in November, when this whole thing was kind of getting going and the Sonata thing happened, I tweeted out at the time, I was like, I'm going to be so fucking disappointed if all this is Hiroki Goto stepping up for his friend Shibata and fighting Kenta in honor of his friend or whatever. And that's exactly what fucking happened. And I just hate it. I would kill any other company for doing this, and I'm going to kill New Japan for doing it. The first angle between Kenta and Shibata, I get it. Kenta turned on him. He beat up Shibata. That's heat. That's fine. It's all good. The second time, though, when you have Shibata go out there and get physical and beat up Kenta and look like $1 million, and it's built up to his friend fighting for him, that sucks. I'm sorry. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, they were trying to get him cleared, or he didn't get cleared. Then don't fucking do the angle. Like, I would say that for any other wrestling company. You don't have to do anything. It is pro fucking wrestling. If this guy is not cleared, you have no confidence he's going to get cleared, you don't think he's going to get cleared, you haven't gotten him cleared yet or whatever, you don't fucking do that angle until he's ready, because all you did was get people excited about that match and then not delivered on it. And that is bad. Like, that is not good. That is bullshit. And nobody's going to be excited now by proxy. Because Hiroki Goto and Kenta, if built up properly, and they might still do a good job of it, is going to be a really good match. I'm looking forward to that match. That sounds awesome. But all I'm going to think about is, fuck, I wish Shibata was in there instead of Goto. And that's not a reflection of Goto in this case. It's not a reflection of Goto whatsoever. But the money match is Kenta and Shibata, and they built to it. It's not like we're working ourselves into a shoot here either. Fucking Kenta threw his shirt off and beat the fuck out of this guy and made it known that he wanted him to fight him, and now it's his buddy fighting him. And it's just, I can't get past that. That's just, I would roast any other company for that. I'm going to roast New Japan for it. That's just utter shit. It's just book. I don't know why they did the teases that they did. I couldn't tell you what the purpose of this was, but it's just, it stinks because it makes me less excited about a Kenta Hiroki Goto match, which will be good. But it's like, I just can't let him off the hook on that. That is absolutely just bullshit that we're not getting Kenta Shibata here.
So let me throw this at you. We said that we'd be satisfied with the 8-man tags if they result in major angles, right? Would you be satisfied if Kenta gets by Goto and successfully defends his title, and Shibata slides under that bottom rope, goes nose to nose, and challenges Kenta for Sakura Genesis? In effect, saving the match when maybe their thought process was, that's a huge match that can fill a building. And we know we're going to fill these two buildings, or we think we will because we're cocky. Maybe we save it for something else. Sakura Genesis, Dominion, whatever. Maybe we don't know their schedule. Remember they shocked us last year? Oh my God, G1 in Dallas, 2 domes. We were all like, what the fuck, a major show in the UK? We don't know what's up their sleeve. What if New Beginning is in a gigantic building? What if both New Beginnings are in gigantic, but you know what I mean? We don't know what they're doing. So what I'm getting around to is, what if the end result of this is Kenta versus Shibata headlining another show in the first quarter of 2020? Do you give them a pass for this?
I don't give them a pass because I would have done the angle that they did in November at Wrestle Kingdom then. You went so hard on it in November.
Yeah.
You have the people, the building was shaking from Shibata beating up Kenta. You
Correct.
can't go and rebottle that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to work if he slides in and goes, okay, now I want to fight you. It's like, why didn't you want to fight me here right now in January?
Right.
And that's the issue that I take is if that was the long-term plan, if the plan was, we'll hold those off for Dominion or Sakura Genesis, I am fine with that. That is fine. But then that angle that happened in November happens at Wrestle Kingdom. Then Kenta and Goto have their little whatever, their dust up, and he beats up Goto, and he's being an asshole to Goto. And in the Dome, night 2, Wrestle Kingdom, Shibata slides in that ring and does exactly what he did in November. Throws the drop kick, throws the kick, does all that sort of stuff. Then I am saying that what a great angle, an all-time great angle that they just pulled off here. And I cannot wait to see Shibata and Kenta at Sakura Genesis, Dominion, whatever the hell it's going to be. The fact that they already did that angle, now what do we have left to do? Other than he slides in and goes, okay, I'll fight you now.
And then the issue is red hot going into whatever match you're going to do, as opposed to being 6 months old.
Right.
Right. No, I see what you're saying.
Like, it'd be cool. Like, it'd be super cool, but like that angle then needed to happen at Wrestle Kingdom, then happen randomly in November for no reason.
Well, here's kind of where I'm going with this. Okay. New Japan USA, right, is coming. You in theory need that title to sort of be the centerpiece of those tours, correct? At least that's the working theory.
Right.
Which, by the way, is why Moxley's not coming out of this as champion, but that's neither here nor there. And then you have the Intercontinental title being merged with the heavyweight title, at least for the time being, correct? Double titles.
Right.
Do you see where I'm going?
A little bit, yeah.
You need the secondary title now, at least for the first half of 2020, to be a big-time title. What is bigger time than doing Kenta Shibata for the Never title? See, at that point, Never's going to have to headline some shows because the Intercontinental's out of the mix. The U.S. is out of the mix. Never has to get elevated. And the best way to elevate it at this point would be to put it on Shibata. Getting revenge on his fucking prick former best friend who turned on him in a match that would fill any building in Japan. That's why I'm saying, and playing devil's advocate, maybe the match is coming later.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I think it probably is.
Wrong.
You're probably likely. You're probably right, for sure.
I'm annoyed. Okay? I'm just as annoyed as you are. And look, we knew it was going to be Goto for the last month or 2 months.
Yeah, I knew it when that angle happened. I went, fuck, this is going to be Goto for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be Goto.
Like, fuck.
So, neither one of us were blindsided by this, right? But when you look at it from that perspective, maybe it is smarter if Shibata's cleared to hold it off. And I'm sorry, I don't think you do 2 angles like that if he's not, or if you don't think he's going to be. It just doesn't make any sense. He's taking bumps anyway. So what the fuck is the difference? If he can take... I mean, this is all a work. What's the difference if you take your bumps in angles, in quote-unquote real matches, or in the dojo with Carl Fredericks? They're still bumps. So I think the whole thing is real fishy. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It seems like you have to elevate Never anyway. So, I don't know. I just figured I would propose that theory and see what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. But yeah, then I want a little bit... I would have switched a lot of what they did. And yeah, but that is what it is. So.
I think maybe they thought... I think they may have gambled that they can get the guy cleared, and Goto was always the fallback plan. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe they just were forced to do the fallback plan because, like you're saying, you would have, if the plan all along was to do the match in the spring, you would have held off the angle until Wrestle Kingdom. You're 1,000% right on that. It made no sense to do the angle when they did. You just would have had Kenta feud with Ishii for a while, and then you do Kent, then you go to Kenta Goto, and then you do the angle.
Right, he's a real prick to Goto, and that gets Shibata, going, all right, fuck you, dude. Like, that's my buddy. Like,
yeah, what happens is, maybe he beats Goto, and then Bullet Club's giving Goto a beat down, and then and then Shibata comes in and cleans house and tosses Tonga Loa out of the ring or whatever, and then and Kenta and Shibata face off. Then you do the same exact fucking angle.
Right.
You do it at Wrestle Kingdom. So...
All right, so we have the loser match here. The loser of Okada and Ibushi and the loser versus White and Naito. I don't... Who cares?
Yeah, I can't really...
I would have honestly, like, even though it's probably going to be a good match, I may have just said, you know what? If you lose, you're done.
You know what's weird, too, is they're saying the winner is probably going to get the title shot in February or maybe some point down the line. Like, the winner of that might be someone who lost to the guy who wins the tournament. Why the fuck should he get another crack at that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of silly. Yeah, I would have just said, you know what, whoever loses, take the night off or whatever.
This could be the sports fan in me, but I have no use for consolation matches.
No, I'm right with you too. Yeah. There's some people that probably are like, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, this should be. But yeah, I think the sports fan in us, I would not want to see the Eastern Conference runner-up versus the Western Conference runner-up in like a 7-game series. Like, who fucking cares? The Rockets versus the Cavaliers. Yeah. Like, here,
I wouldn't watch a second of that.
Who gives a shit? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
here's your third place medal, Houston Rockets. Yay! It's James Harden holding up a bronze medal. Yeah. Like, who cares? Yeah, I have no desire.
And the thing is, like, a lot of sports used to do that. And they stopped doing those kind of games because they stopped drawing. Like, the NCAA
nobody
tournament.
wants to see that shit. Nobody.
Yeah, there used to be a third place game in March Madness in the NCAA tournament years ago. And then they stopped selling tickets and people stopped watching it on TV. And they're like, we're wasting our time. We should, so maybe we're just coming at it from the perspective of big sports fans where we don't care who finishes third. I care who wins.
Yeah, I've been to plenty. They do consolation games like the Illinois basketball championships. And it is, oh my dude, because we'll watch all the games. We're there the entire weekend. And it is so funny to watch these teams that are so hyped up to get to the finals. And in this consolation game, Joe, it is the lowest effort you have ever seen in your life. And they get those bronze medals and they just hold on to them and then put them in their pockets. Like they don't want a third place medal. Are you kidding? To them, it's embarrassing to go out there. And you can see that on their faces. They're kind of like, all right. Like they want to finish their season well, but nobody's trying. The coach is just kind of sitting there like, what? Like it's third place. Who cares? Like nobody cares about third place. You're not going to get a fucking parade because you finished third. Nobody's going to ever care. So yeah, the idea that we're going to have this Donnybrook of a third place consolation match doesn't really do much for me. So
it's funny because a lot of the college football bowl games, the ones that get played in December, the fucking whatever the fuck,
the Bell Helicopter, the Bell Helicopter Holiday Bowl or whatever.
The 6th place ACC team versus the 5th place Big Ten team, and it's like gamblers feast on those games because what they do is they find out which coaches are taking them seriously and which coaches are taking it as an extra month of practice and a chance to play guys who they're going to play next year. And, you obviously put the heavy money because usually if you have a first year head coach or if you have a head coach of a young team they're going to put more effort into a totally meaningless game.
Right, because they can talk about it. They can use that momentum into next year and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get the jump on who's taking it seriously and who isn't. And you can usually clean up. Deep inside to get it's just meaningless games. You just don't get the same effort across the board from people. So, but this is pro wrestling, and I'm sure it's guaranteed to be two really good wrestlers. So, I'm sure it'll be a good match.
Yeah, I always like those because there's always that big program that's in the Potato Bowl or whatever. That they don't give a shit. It's Florida or Miami or whatever, and they're just like, fuck this, who cares?
But I mean, and now in recent years, you have the guys who are draft eligible
that don't even play. Yeah.
They leave the team. They don't even play. That tells you right there that, like you're saying, these consolation games that you watch in high school basketball, same thing. There's just no one cares. Even the participants don't care. They would rather not be playing.
I love college bowl season though, for the record. I don't love college football as much as I used to, but I still get all in on college bowl games because it's just
you'll sit there and watch the Belk Bowl.
Oh, absolutely, the Boca Raton Bowl or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I'm totally down because it's just it's like two fun teams, two teams that might not have all otherwise faced each other. It's weird. There's nobody in attendance. There's 1,000 people in attendance because no one's traveling across the country to go to the Quick Lane Bowl or whatever. So it's just I don't know why I like it, but I have a perverse interest in the bowl season. So
yeah.
Oh, Eastern Michigan versus Pittsburgh in the Quick Lane Bowl. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome. Where are you going to see that?
Is that the first one out of the gate?
The first one out of the gate looks like the Bahamas Bowl. Bahamas Bowl, Charlotte versus Buffalo.
Oh God.
I didn't know Charlotte was a D1 school. There we go.
Yeah, they moved up to D1. Yeah. I mean, come on. I can think of a million better things to do in my day than sit there.
I might not. Okay. I'll be honest. I'm probably not watching the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah.
New Mexico Bowl, the Central Michigan's San Diego State. A little Aztec action. I'm into that, but all right.
You're not watching it.
I'm not watching that. Interestingly enough, I do watch a lot of those. I don't know why. Just they're fun to kind of put on as background noise for the most part.
You know what's weird is a lot of them will be on a Friday afternoon at 4:00.
That's what I mean. This one that I just closed the window, but the fucking Bahamas Bowl is at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, and I'm like, all right,
yeah,
whatever.
And you're like, okay, so you throw it on because there's nothing else on. But yeah, I get it.
All right, so then we have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Chris Jericho. Jericho plays a video to hype up this match. Interested in this one for sure. Sounds like it'll be good. Jericho always delivers in his New Japan matches, so I don't know if it's going to reach the levels that the Okada or the Okada and the Omega stuff did, but it's still Hiroshi Tanahashi and it's still Chris Jericho, and it's a second from the top on night 2, so I think it's going to still be a big deal.
It's going to deliver. Chris Jericho always delivers. When does he not deliver?
You're right. He's effort. Yeah, he doesn't wrestle every week, every single month, but yeah, when he is there, he's giving it his all. So yeah, I'm excited about that one.
And it's two tremendous pros, smart wrestlers, all-time greats. They're not going to lay an egg here. I mean, I'd be very surprised. So I think it'll deliver.
Especially in the semi-main, and then the main event, of course, we talked about is for the heavyweight title, the unification of those two. So we'll talk about that much more as we get closer to the event. But wow, that has taken up a lot of time, Joe. So we got to go pretty quick here to get to the rest of the stuff we were going to talk about. But one thing we wanted to touch on briefly here: WWE cuts. Luke Harper, Sin Cara, and the Ascension get their cuts. First WWE cuts in a while, it seems like. I mean, there's been like little cuts here and there, one or two guys out, but the first time in a long time that we've had a glut of guys. And are we hearing that there's going to be more? Like, what is our take on this? Do you think this is one and done, or do you think more guys are maybe checking those cell phones and maybe in some cases hoping and praying they get that call?
There's rumors that there's more, and the rumors are that there's a lot coming from NXT. Is the word I'm hearing. So we'll see. It doesn't really surprise me. I mean, obviously the roster is bloated. And aside from Luke Harper, I don't think there's anyone here that they feel like AEW could use. Luke Harper, I think, is almost a lock to end up at AEW at some point. But the others, I mean, the Ascension have almost no value. The Sin Cara is in his 40s and he's a luchador. He'll get work in Mexico, and he obviously can't take the gimmick with him, so it'll be the return of Hunico. And good for him because he wanted out. The Ascension, I don't know. I mean, Victor is a guy who will probably stay in wrestling in some capacity. Conor, I don't know. He gained a lot of weight. He wasn't very good to begin with. I don't see these guys being like Harper, yes, but I don't see these other guys being like indie superstars. I mean, I don't see Conor of the Ascension owning WrestleMania weekend.
Right, grinding and working everything he can do. Yeah, it is. It's because, you saw them tweet out like, oh, freedom, or, we're finally happy. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. Victor did. Which, again, like Victor, you're right. He might carve himself a bit. Listen, he at least has a history. Right.
He wasn't a huge indie name, but he's from that era. He worked a small handful of ROH shows. He got signed by WWE very early on, which is why he didn't end up becoming a big indie guy. And there was a time where he had a reputation of being a good worker. Conor, it was just another guy who was just in the system forever, but never really was any good. He's just a big guy back when they were signing big guys. Harper, obviously, as soon as did you see the sneaky thing they did with Harper? I didn't even realize this, Rich. They, he's got the 90-day non-compete, right?
Right.
That takes him up to about a week before his contract would have ended anyway.
Yeah.
So in reality, they're not really setting him free. It's just he's free a week early. That is fucking sneaky. They made him wait. And then they look like they're nice guys.
Right, exactly. You know what, Luke? Here's your release. You get a week off early. A week early.
Yeah, like I think the dates, because Meltzer was talking about
it is. It's something like March 20th, and his contract was going to expire on the 30th or whatever. So it's like 10 days prior or something.
It's like the 8th. It's like March 8th and the March 20th. Yeah, it's like a 12-day difference or some shit. It's fucking sleazy, And then it looks like they're doing him a favor. How much money do you think he's going to make in those 12 days? You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. But, I mean, he's a guy who every indie will instantly attempt to book the second he's free. And obviously, AEW will be calling him. And I would suspect MLW, New Japan, that guy he'll be fine. The others, I'm not so sure. We'll have to see. And there are some rumors of some more cuts coming. And then we had Bobby Roode and Primo popped for the wellness violation. So I don't know. I guess
our first one since 2016. So the entire roster has been squeaky clean since 2016, apparently. But Primo is not even in the company. Like, hasn't worked in the company since doing a dark match in February. Got popped, and also Bobby Roode.
So Primo, who was staying home and being paid, now has to stay home and not get paid, right? Because you don't get paid when you're suspended.
I don't know.
Isn't that how it works? Do they get paid when they're suspended?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. That was an old WCW thing that they would suspend people with pay a lot. But I guess WWE is probably smarter about doing that and maybe just don't pay them during that period. So,
well, if they get paid, nothing changes with Primo. Like,
right? He was like, "All right, can I work Mexico or can I work Puerto Rico still?" And they're like, "Yeah, who cares, man? It's."
He should just keep shooting up those fucking steroids. There's no fucking, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would suspect it's without pay. I mean, otherwise, what's the punishment? Yeah, so
weird. Like it felt like a random throwback week to like 2015 where they would like cut people and people got suspended all the time. It's like we haven't had any of that happen in 3 months or 3 years, and like all of a sudden this 1 week it's like wellness violations, guys are released. Like, all right, whatever. Like I don't.
Yeah.
There used to be a lot of content on our site. We would do like coverage of when guys got cut and whatnot. Yeah, the Black Friday. Remember the Black Friday in WWE history?
I remember.
Who's on that Black Friday?
Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal, Brodus Clay, Matt Sydal, Teddy Long.
Was it a Black Friday or a Black Wednesday? When did that?
Thursday,
Black Thursday. Okay, because I looked at Black Friday.
There was a referee. There's a couple more.
It's not coming up. Come on, damn it! All right, I'll find it eventually. But
there's like 2 more. I think it was like 8 people total.
I think you got most of it though. That does sound pretty good. Yeah, that was a great article. I remember when that went down. So, breaking down WWE's Black Thursday. Okay, here we go. All right, all right, Yoshitatsu. You missed Yoshitatsu.
Yep.
We got Yoshitatsu, Evan Bourne, Teddy Long, Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal. Camacho was gone.
Camacho's the other one I missed. Yeah, there's a referee I know.
Mark Harris was the referee that we were talking about. Yeah, Kurt Hawkins.
Kurt Hawkins
was the other guy, and then Oksana. Oh, who could forget Oksana?
Yeah.
Brodus Clay, JTG, of course. You know why I pick up my phone, JTJ. So JTG. So that was Black Thursday for you. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So.
Good.
This is the biggest lump. This is the biggest group of cuts since that day.
Really? Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we just need to see. I mean, like, I don't want people to lose their jobs, but I think the wrestling business is much healthier if they have a lot less people on their rosters. So I think they're better off for it. I think every indie is better off for it, and I think some of these guys are better off for it too. I really do think like someone like Lou Parker can make as much money or close to as much money as he's making with WWE, most likely, while also feeling fulfilled in his job. So I can't really feel too terrible about that. So.
This is a good thing for all of these people except for Conor.
Right, Ryan O'Reilly, not good for him. Yeah, that's.
But I think this is good for the others. I mean, 2 of them asked for this, so and you're right. It reinvigorates the scene with some new, fresh talent. No matter where these people land, it's fresh talent for someone, and it's a good thing. I could totally see like a promotion like AIW out of Cleveland. They would book the Ascension in a fucking. They love that
dude.
Kind of shit.
Dude, I really like. So Connor blows and Connor sucks and whatever, and he's fat now. But like, dude, if I was booking an indie, I'm bringing those guys in and I'm having them squash dudes for like 2 months or whatever, and then I have the team that I want to build up next. Beat them, and then they, then thank you for your time, guys. Thanks for the 2 months. You guys were professionals. Right. Thanks. Like, that's what I would do with them. Like, that's probably the best one because they're going to get initial pops. And if they beat your big guys, like, that's a pretty good story to play. And then, yeah, you do it for 2 months and they're done. Like, it's not something you keep them for 2 years or whatever, beating everybody. But yeah, you get a little program out of it. You put your next team over, and then they move on to the next thing. So.
Yeah, and a promotion like AIW, it fits the tone of their promotion. They love shit like that. So, it's good for, like you said, it's good for everyone involved when they cut the fat like this. It's just not good for WWE to have all these people under contract. It's bloat.
All right, let's get to this real quick. The All Japan Real World Tag League, they had their finals. I have not seen it, Joe, but you wanted to touch on it a little bit. It was Violent Giants defeating Jake Lee and Noah Nomura. What'd you think of this match? Should people go out and seek it out? And what'd you think of the entire tournament as a whole?
Okay, well, I watched the final 3 matches of the final night, the 3 matches of consequence. And I have to tell you, the final night of the All Japan Tag League blew away the final night of the New Japan Tag League. And the final night of the New Japan Tag League wasn't that bad. Like, I didn't think that was bad. But Jake Lee and Nomura defeating Kento Miyahara and Aoyagi.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So Lee and Nomura needed to win that to guarantee themselves in the final. That match was fucking awesome. Rich, you need to watch this match. The energy, it was good Jake Lee and not bad Jake Lee. And you know what I mean by that.
Oh, yeah.
He had some energy to him and some pop and was really probably, Miyahara is always the star of the match, but he was probably the star of the match that wasn't Kento Miyahara. Aoyagi stepped, nonstop action from bell to bell, real intensity, and Leo Nomura win. Lee scores the pin on Miyahara, so they're doing Lee Miyahara on January 3rd. Their traditional January 3rd show. So they're going back to Jake Lee. So hold that thought. We have a lot to unpack here. Then the Violent Giants are taking on Kai and Tajiri. They both have 10 points. If they draw, Lee and Nomura win the tournament because they have 12. If one team wins, they face Lee and Nomura in the finals. Okay? So obviously they didn't do the draw. Violent Giants win, which sets up, now we have a tie. So then we get the impromptu playoff match to determine the winners of the tournament between Violent Giants and Lee and Nomura. You following me?
Got it. Yeah.
At this point, the Violent Giant win over Kai and Tajiri was a squash. Kai and Tajiri came out in clown paint, which I could really make a lot of jokes, but they're too easy, and I'm not going to do it.
What a fucking dork. Kai is such a dork.
They came out in fucking clown paint, and then
God, it writes itself. You don't even need to say a joke. You just need to say Kai and Tajiri came out in clown paint. The end.
No. Yeah. And then they got squashed. So they blew the mist in Ishikawa's face, but then they lost by chokeout. Like Ishikawa choked out Tajiri. He didn't even get his ring robe off. He just choked him out. But they came out in masks. When they took the masks off, they looked like Doink the Clown. They were wearing clown paint. It wasn't even like menacing looking. It was just like standard clown paint with like a smile on it. Like it was just idiots. So they take an intermission. They explain that Ishikawa got misted, so they need to take the intermission, right? So then they come back and they have the final, and you got Violent Giants versus Lee and Nomura. So Lee and Nomura lost earlier this year to Violent Giants, challenging for the tag titles, as you recall, and that made me go mental. You remember that, Rich? I'm like, why the fuck didn't Lee and Nomura just win the titles from these guys?
Right.
Lee and Nomura lost to Violent Giants in the league play earlier in this tournament. So obviously Lee and Nomura beat Violent Giants here to win the tournament, right, Rich?
They didn't.
They didn't. Why the fuck did they lose again? Why? They've lost 3 times to these guys this year.
Right, they don't deserve anything anymore. Get these guys out of here. Fucking
You're
geek.
trying to push these guys and elevate them to get on the level of Miyahara, and they can't get by Suwama and Ishikawa.
Right, who you don't need to build up anymore. Let's be honest.
You do not. They're fucking 50.
Right.
Okay? And they've both been beaten by Miyahara 1,000 fucking times. So why the logical story to tell is Lee and Nomura beating these guys, especially if they lost to them twice already. What are we doing here? What the fuck are we doing here? Why on earth would they lose this match? Can anybody on planet Earth explain to me the logic of them losing this match to Violent Giants and losing to them for a 3rd time this year? When Lee is getting the next title shot against Miyahara in less than a month.
That's particularly egregious, too. That like, all right, you lost. All right, here's the title shot.
And because Lee is getting the title shot and picked up the pin an hour earlier, that meant Nomura had to eat the pin in this match. And he's been hot. You've successfully managed to heat one of these guys up, and in one night, you picked the other one for the title shot, and you beat the one that you heated up.
Yeah, just pin Suwama. Who fucking cares? He's not going to lose a thing.
What are we doing? Rich, I do not get it. What the fuck are they doing? And then, this is why the show drew 1,300 fans when last year it drew almost 1,800. Shit like this. And that's why this company is going to have negative attendance growth this year compared to last year. Shit like this. Take these 2 guys and fucking push them. Okay? You want to do Jake Lee Miyahara on January 3rd? Fine. I have no problem with it. Why isn't Nomura pinning one of these 2 50-year-old men to win this tournament then? And then you're elevating both guys in one night, giving them both big wins. I don't understand. Am I the crazy one? Am I crazy here, Rich, or am I making sense?
Well, I mean, like if it was the first time with these guys, there's a lot of different things that could be in play here where it wouldn't be illogical. But the fact that they beat these guys a bunch of other times. If this is the first time that they beat them, then okay, then you say, all right, well, they're not ready yet, or there's another story to be told, or whatever. But yeah, they've been beating them like a drum all year, and then they finally have an opportunity to beat them, and then they lose again, and then they still get a title shot. It's just dumb, illogical booking. Yeah,
they beat them a week ago,
right?
I mean, what the fuck? They come on, can they
like that? That is Pro Wrestling 101. Is like you don't do, especially with the young guy. When it's young and old, it's just it's the perfect recipe to not get those guys over. If that's the goal, if the goal is to bury Lee and Nomura, then you've succeeded in that. But if the goal is the opposite, to push those guys, then that's terrible booking.
It just drives you nuts. It's crazy how it's crazy to me how pro wrestling fans will rant and rave about the booking in New Japan, and they'll rant and rave about the booking in AEW. And then you look at shit like this, and it's like a million times fucking worse than anything you'll see in AEW or New Japan. It's fucking crazy to me. Not a peep out of anybody, though. Not a peep out of anyone with this fucking utter shit. But they'll sit there and tell you that some mid-card match on Dynamite, this guy, I don't know the fuck they're doing. People are nuts. They pick on the wrong shit. This is like the worst booked shit that you could ever come up with.
Right, and this is like main eventers, future stars, the future of your company, the guys you're building around. Star. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily. It's not like Peter Avalon, what a dud. I can't believe they're wasting time on Dark with Peter Avalon. This is like your next stars. The next guys up are Lee and Nomura, and they're geeks. Like, yeah.
Yeah, people will complain that New Japan doesn't know how to book dumb shit like fucking tag teams, which doesn't fucking matter, but then they'll give this a pass and no one talks. This is so awful, Rich. This is your two future stars and you're destroying them, and they're doing it in front of your eyes. They lost this team 3 times in a row on the same night where you're trying to set up the other guy for a title shot. And then you're forced to bury Nomura in the final. I'm watching this, and if I hadn't already saw the results, if I wasn't spoiled, Rich, I would have, when that final match came out, I would have said, Nomura is going to pin one of these guys. It's obvious. There's no other possible outcome. What else would you possibly do here in this spot other than Nomura pinning fucking either one? Pick one. Because they're about the same in the pecking order, Suwama and Ishikawa. That's what's going to happen here. Because it's the only thing that makes sense. And I would have been thinking to myself, what a great little story. They are finally going to overcome the monster tag team in the company that they haven't been able to beat the other 2 tries. They're going to do it in the same night that Jake Lee beat Miyahara. This is a great night for Lee and Nomura. What tremendous booking this is going to be.
Like we said, sometimes the simplest story is the best story. And
I'm going to go on the flagship and throw a bouquet of roses on All Japan this week is what I would have been thinking during that match if I hadn't known the result. And then Violent Giants win the fucking match for no reason whatsoever. There is no reason you can give me that's an acceptable reason. If you want to tell me it's because of injuries in the tournament and the whole thing got rebooked and it got fucked up, I don't care. They still should have won that match, even if that wasn't the fucking plan. Okay? There's no reason for them to lose that match. None whatsoever. And while we're at it, they should have then beat Sai and Zeus for the tag team titles too. If you're going to push them, fucking push them. Go all the way, because you need to go all the way with somebody. And I'm tired of coming on this show and talking about how much they fuck up these 2 guys. I'm tired of it, Rich. And we're the only ones that ever say anything. For some reason, it gets a pass. But you'll talk about how Gato doesn't know how to book junior tag teams like it matters. At all. With 8 straight years of fucking growth. That's what you'll pick on. It doesn't make it. This gets a pass, though. And I'm sick of it.
Yeah, they've been living off All Japan's been really living off the reputation of Akiyama bringing them back from the dead and getting them risen up a little bit and getting them.
Yeah, well, they're headed back.
And that's what I mean. Like we need to start kind of reversing that a little bit and going, okay, well, let's talk about why they're going on the opposite way now, because that's a huge story. That should be a huge story going into 2020. Is that they're on the way back down again? Like I don't know if they're going to reach the depths that they did. But with shit like this, it won't take long, and we're starting to see it a little bit.
You are just working against these 2 guys. If one of these 2 guys gets over, it won't be because of how they were booked. And it's like one step forward. It's the literal definition of one step forward and two steps back. They do good things with the carnival with these guys, and then they take two steps back. It's fucking unbelievable. It's unreal. And watch, Jake Lee will probably win the title from Miyahara on the third. He's not ready. And Nomura was the guy. And they picked the wrong fucking guy. And they cooled off the one that was getting hot. And it just drives you nuts. It's fucking insane. So anyway, that was your All Japan Tag League Finals. Good matches.
There you go, yeah.
Really good matches, even though the result was fucking all wrong.
All right, let's get to these shows this weekend. There's plenty going on. We'll start, Joe, very quickly with WWE Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2019. We only have 6 matches so far. I'm sure many more will be announced over the weekend via, I don't know if this is to be believed or whatnot, but Dave Meltzer did bring up that Vince McMahon's new directive is to announce stuff last minute because it gets buys on WWE Network. So in this case, these reviews are going to be much quicker because we only have 6 matches to talk about. So we have Rusev versus Bobby Lashley in a tables match because Rusev put Bobby Lashley through a table when they were signing their divorce papers. So
other way around.
Oh, who fucking cares? All right, tables match.
Oh, they're finally having their match, but I mean, because they screw jobs us at Starrcade. And didn't give us the match. Isn't that what the deal was? Like, they were supposed to wrestle at Starrcade.
They were. It was supposed to be a last man standing match at Starrcade, and they just said, fuck that.
And so now, presumably, we're finally getting the match in the weirdest feud in wrestling because some weeks it pops the number, some weeks it loses viewers. I think it's all just happenstance. I think people are just indifferent on the whole thing, to be completely honest. Because there's no real pattern with the feud in terms of the quarter hours. But, yeah, they'll finally have their match, and I guess if Lana is already divorcing him and fucking the other guy, then what really is the point? I mean, what are we doing?
I don't know why Rusev cares. Yeah, you just kind of be like, all right, whatever, dude. I don't care. Fuck her. Like, have fun with my wife, so I don't give a shit.
I mean, they're divorced in storyline, right? Wasn't that the whole point on Monday?
I believe
did
it was.
It not happen? Because what do we do? Can we move on?
Tables, Ladders, and Chairs tag team match for the women's tag team titles, the Kabuki Warriors versus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, I thought Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair was the feud of the decade. Here they are teaming. Yeah, I mean,
it's the hated heels, the Kabuki Warriors.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if I had Kairi Sane, I would definitely make her a heel. That's what I would do with a super charismatic babyface. That's but the Kabuki Warriors thing. I mean, it's kind of works, but people don't really want to boo them. That's the problem. The other team is just like frenemies, and I hate that shit. So, I don't know. It just could be good, though. I mean, just as a match in a vacuum, I guess.
Yeah. TLC stipulations would be pretty cool to see what these people can do, what they can work it out. Charlotte will do something insane, I'm sure, and Becky takes a lot of big risks, too. So, yeah, it's interesting that this is the TLC match, one of the 2 TLC matches. But, yeah, be pretty interesting here. Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy is announced. I feel like that's going to find its way on the pre-show or something, but Aleister Black wanted someone to knock on his door. Buddy knocked on his door, and now 5 months later, they're going to have their match. So,
did you see about a month ago somebody knocked on his door, but he wasn't there?
Yes.
I forget who it was, but it might have been Buddy Murphy. Actually,
I think it was Buddy the first time. Yeah, knocked on his door, nobody answered. And
they finally knocked on his door, and like no one answered.
Poor Aleister Black, he's like, I just want someone to knock on my door, and then the one time he walks away is when Buddy Murphy knocks on his door. It's just like,
he goes to take a piss or grab a piece of chicken breast from catering, and this guy knocks on the door, and the guy who knocked on the door just kind of shrugged his shoulders and walked away.
All right, well, I tried. So.
And I'm like, what the fuck? They've been doing this for months, and oh, God.
Bray Wyatt versus The Miz. The Miz is upset because Bray's going to do something to his family or something.
Yeah. Oh, God.
The New Day defending the SmackDown Tag Team titles against The Revival.
I can't take The Miz seriously as a tough guy. I just can't. Like, this character is like unbeatable, and he takes all these curb stomps, and like, what the fuck? I'm supposed to think The Miz can take this guy out? I that's my problem with that more than anything else. Is like, I never in my life will be convinced that The Miz can fight or is tough. No one will ever convince me of that. And that's why like a match against this unbeatable thing that they call a thing and isn't supposed to be human is not going to work for me, because I don't know. anyway. And then the Revival, I mean, they had that great match against Undisputed Era a couple weeks ago on NXT. So that could be a nice little tag team.
So I have a quick question for you. Maybe I'm dumb. Is this Bray Wyatt or is this the Fiend?
It's Bray Wyatt. That's a good point.
So that's different. Wrestling. Yeah, because I'm reading the WWE.com preview, Joe, and I want to take a few seconds to read this. Yeah. So are you ready for this? All right, this is from Michael Burdick, who is the writer for WWE.com. All right.
I'm sure he has a lot of independent thought when he writes.
The A-lister is coming out to play at WWE TLC when Universal Champion Bray Wyatt engages The Miz. The issue between Wyatt and Miz was born out of the ongoing conflict between the Fiend Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan. In the wake of his defeat to the horrifying title holder at Survivor Series, Bryan re-embraced the Yes movement during an episode of SmackDown, only to be dragged under the ring by the Fiend Bray Wyatt. After Bryan disappeared, Wyatt re-emerged and began to toss clumps of what appeared to be Bryan's hair into the air. Miz responded to the calamity by stepping up and demanding to know what happened to his longtime adversary. Wyatt soon took notice of the outspoken superstar's demands, but Miz wasn't interested in a match against the host of the Firefly Funhouse until Bray pulled his strings by mentioning the A-lister's family. Has Miz acted too rashly for falling for Wyatt's masterful mind games? Will he pay the price for not running when he had the opportunity? Find out at WTLC, streaming live Sunday, December 15th.
I think it's Bray Wyatt, and I think it's non-title, right?
Yes, it is non-title. And
it's Bray.
So the Fiend is the champion, right?
Correct.
And Bray is just a dude.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that's they recognize it's the same person, but listen, I've written off the Fiend. I refuse to recognize the Fiend. It's Lucha Underground level. Here's the thing. I hand-waved Lucha Underground, right? I hand-waved Chikara when it got stupid with time travel and stuff, right? Why would I not hand-wave the Fiend? It's just as stupid. There's too much wrestling to where I just do not want to waste the energy caring about anything they do with the Fiend. So I just don't care.
The New Day defending the SmackDown Tag Team titles against the Revival.
Yeah, I said that could be pretty. Who knows?
Who fucking cares? The Revival wins, the New Day wins. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, it's hard. Christ. It's impossible to care.
God. Well,
no one can care.
This you're going to care about. Tables, ladders, and chairs, Joe. Roman Reigns versus King Corbin. We cannot escape. One day I want to love something as much as this company loves King Corbin.
Well, I mean, when you headline with a guy 2 nights in a row and he draws the 2 worst paid houses in the company in the last 10 years, why would you not continue to feature him heavily on your program?
You have a segment on your TV where you say, this guy's the reason no one's fucking watching the show anymore.
Right.
And then he's just still on the show more than ever after that.
Vince likes that he gets booed, and he likes that he thinks he's good looking. So, he thinks that's what women desire. And he hears him get booed in the building, so it's not going to stop. It's I don't know. I guess we've forgotten that there's different kinds of heat, and his isn't real. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
Decision to make this a TLC match between Roman and King Corbin. Does King Corbin scream guy who's going to succeed in a ladder-based match?
I mean, it should have been a dog collar match, right?
It really should have. Yeah. Given all the dog food that we've had. Fucking dog. Yeah. I'm done. Go closing the window. I don't fucking care. TLC. Go watch it this Sunday. Okay. Award-winning WWE Network. All right, let's talk about stuff that actually is mildly interesting. NWA Into The Fire is this Saturday. We talked about it a little bit a few weeks ago. We have our official final card here. It's available on Fight TV as well, so be a good opportunity to watch that. Rock and Roll Express versus the Wild Cards. It's Lattimore and Royce Isaacs. That's for the NWA World Tag Team titles. Colt Cabana. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So Wild Cards should win, right? I mean, you did the little deal with
Yeah. There's no reason for the Rock and Roll to win the titles.
Can we get back to reality?
Yeah, right.
And get the titles off the 60-year-old men now. So, yeah, Wild Card should win.
Yeah, I agree. Colt Cabana, Aaron Stevens, and Ricky Starks for the NWA National Championship. I'm going Starks here. And we're maybe a little biased because we've been on the Ricky Starks train for a while. But of all the guys on the NWA TV, I think he's the guy that you look at as not necessarily maybe your top star, but a guy that you can definitely bring through forward to more episodes and new seasons or whatever. And I think the opportunity for him to win that national title is a great one. So I really hope they go with him here. Just anybody but Stevens, to be honest. But
listen, they made one star within the context of their world, and it was Ricky Starks, right? I mean, positive reviews across the board. He was a guy that most of the people watching the show didn't even know who he was, and he got over with everyone. So yeah, he should probably win. I wish this was just Starks versus Cabana. I understand he's been feuding with Aaron Stevens on the show, and that's how they wormed him into the match. I get it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Starks should win. He's kind of been at the national title level from the, even at the 70th anniversary. He was in the tournament for the national title. So they've got him kind of at that level for now. And who knows how long they can keep him. Because they've made a name of Ricky Starks, and you know what happens to names in this current environment.
Right.
You don't last long on the scene. So who knows how long they can keep him now that they've made him a name. But he's someone, look, I think I would plan long-term to continue making him. You can make your own star here if you can keep him around. Instead of your bevy of former TNA guys, you got a half a dozen of them, which those guys are fine. They give you a little name value, but you got a chance to make a young guy here. So this could be step one.
Elsewhere on the card here, we have Question Mark versus Trevor Murdoch.
I'm glad Trevor Murdoch got a spot on the card. He did good work on the TV show.
He felt like an NWA guy. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to describe what that is if you haven't gone back and watched old NWA, but he's just like a big, ugly, fat dude that looks tough. And that used to be a lot of pro wrestlers. Used to be big, fat guys that look tough. So I'm kind of down with it. I like it, and he's kind of a nice little throwback, and I think he works for sure in the context of the NWA. So I'm right with you too. I'm excited about that, even if it's not like a match that like maybe I'm looking forward to on it, pure in-ring level, but still it has some nice stuff. And that's kind of true of this entire show. Like, do I think this is going to be a great in-ring show? Is it going to be filled with 4-star matches? I don't. But is it going to be a nice and easy 2-hour show with smart booking and believable things and results that make sense? Like, I absolutely believe that. That's why I'm excited about this, and that's why I like the NWA. It's fun to kind of sometimes shut your brain off a little bit, and I'm not necessarily worried about, oh, is this match great, or It's just like, hey, this is fun wrestling, and it's good popcorn wrestling is the best way to kind of put it. That's what Power is for me every single week. It's like I turn it on and I kind of just let it. I watch it while I'm eating dinner. I watch it while I'm just hanging out doing nothing, and it's good to just kind of shut your brain off for a little bit, and that's what they've succeeded in doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pay-per-view will have longer matches and better matches than the TV show, but that's exactly what the TV show is. Trevor Murdoch, I mean, he's a tough guy. He could ride a motor scooter through Little Italy with a pizza strapped to his back and not have to worry about it, So you got scared there, didn't you? You got scared.
I was like,
Rich.
Show, what are you doing? Yeah, but then you went with nobody cares about the Italians, so that's perfect. Yeah, just throw them under the bus. They don't care. And most would agree that they'd probably, like a good pizza. Everybody likes pizza. So.
I am Italian, Rich.
Yeah, and you have no offense. Yeah, you don't care. Right? Or do you? I should have asked Joe, but do you care before I... You really got scared when I started with that motor scooter. You were like what? I got to edit this. Thank God this isn't live.
Like, what are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, too blue. All right, Eli Drake versus Ken Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, here you go.
That's of all the matches.
TNA guys.
Yeah, of all the matches, that is certainly the most recent we've talked about.
Now, listen, Drake, I like. I think Drake brings something perfect to the table for this promotion. Ken Anderson, I can take him.
I could be fine never seeing Ken Anderson in a wrestling ring ever again. So I was kind of done with him by 2008. So I think I'm pretty good. Old Mr. Anderson. So Allysin Kay and Ashley Vox versus Melina, Thunder Rosa, or Marty Bell. Fingers crossed it's Thunder Rosa and not Marty Bell. So that's
I agree.
Marty.
Yeah, she stinks.
A very nice woman. I'm sure she's a lot of fun to hang out with. But
she stinks. And
she's not good at wrestling. She's pretty terrible. And Thunder Rosa is awesome. So yeah, Thunder Rosa and Melina versus Allysin Kay and Ashley Vox is good. Melina and Marty Bell versus Allysin Kay and Ashley Vox is not very good. So yeah,
you still got Allysin Kay either way. But
that's true. But
can we kill the drums when Thunder Rosa is wrestling too? That's pretty. It's pretty corny. I gotta say. The drums, I'm not a fan of.
Which is weird because she's got like a shit ton of charisma on her own too. Like they don't need that. Like she creates her own in-ring charisma, so they'd be wise to maybe let that go and just let her kind of do her own thing. But yeah, it is what it is. And then a best 2 out of 3 falls match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It's Nick Aldis defending the title against James Storm. Brian Hebner will be the referee for the first fall, while Tim Storm will be the referee for the second fall. But Joe, what about the third fall? If it goes to a third fall.
Jim Cornette will be the referee for the third fall.
That would be a thing. That would certainly be a thing.
Yeah, look, one thing I think the show failed to do was properly build up a number one contender for Nick Aldis. I think that the James Storm thing, he lost the national title, and then all of a sudden he was, for some reason, getting a title shot. They explained it on the Go Home show. Basically, Nick Aldis said that James Storm likes to run his mouth and he wants to shut his mouth, so he requested that be his opponent. At least they explained it. I don't love the explanation, but at least they explained it and they allowed both guys to cut promos. But I do think over the 8 or 9 weeks of the show, they failed to do a very good job establishing a number one contender for Aldis. They established Aldis as a credible world champion. He cuts a great promo. He looks the part. I think they got him over, but during that whole run of the show, they didn't build anyone up to be his contender. And now I guess the idea was, let's put our next biggest name in there with him and just put our 2 biggest names on top. But they didn't tell the proper story to get James Storm. I don't so much have a problem with James Storm as I have a problem with what they did to get there, which seemed like it was just thrown together and very sloppy.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just felt like, and then they kind of had to, figure it out with pre-tapes and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, man, you had all that weeks of TV and that should have been, especially when you're taping ahead of time, like that should have been number one or one of the main priorities is, okay, who's facing, Nick Aldis and how are we getting there? And it felt like they had to kind of attach everything later on with these pre-tapes and whatnot. And I know there was the one issue with maybe the Cornette episode, they had to get a little weird out or they had to cut some stuff or whatever. But like, it felt real clunky given that everything else felt like it was really played out and really, really like well structured. And then it just kind of like, they kind of haphazardly had to put together this title match. So that kind of stinks a little bit. I'm still excited for it. And I think they've done a good job of building up James Storm overall, like the character. Like the idea of James Storm in NWA is good, but the fact that he's going for the title maybe doesn't have the same vibe to it. But I'm still kind of into this match a little bit because independently, like you said, they've done a good job of building up Nick Aldis. They've done a good job of building up James Storm on his own. It just doesn't feel like you're ready for this match to happen between the two.
No, yeah. It just doesn't feel like a proper hot world title match where a guy worked his way up the ranks and is the clear number one contender. It just doesn't feel like a hot match. I almost feel like I would have been happier with Eli Drake in that spot, maybe built up and maybe have James Storm be the one to be attacked by Kennedy and put him in that, or Anderson, whatever the fuck his name is, and put him in that spot. Maybe if they swap, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like they properly built up a number one contender. That's all. So that I don't think they did a very good job with. Now, as far as the show itself, I mean, at last check, at the last word from Lagana, they had 3 times the amount of pre-sales for this pay-per-view than they did for the 70th anniversary show. That speaks to the power of the YouTube show, right? I mean, there's no other explanation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because they did not, they had the YouTube, channel at the time. They had the NWA channel, but yeah,
10 pounds of gold.
Yeah, exactly. But this is now a weekly show, and yeah, if this is doing as well as to be believed, business wise, then yeah, absolutely, it's a huge credit to the TV show.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that has to be the reason that this show is going to do significantly better than the 78th anniversary did from a pay-per-view perspective. Now that show drew like 2,000 fans, and that had Cody on top. So this one's going to be in that studio, so it's only going to draw, I don't know, what's that hold? Does that hold 200 fans?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have no idea what that studio holds. Yeah, I guess.
Let's call it 300.
I think it'd be like, wild to think any more than that, really. I mean, that's even pushing it.
Yeah, so I mean, and then they already sold out the pay-per-view, and they sold out the tapings as well. So for all of just the big fucking mess that they had from like week 6 onward with the controversies and everything else, it's like business is good, right? So they're going to have a season 2, which they're going to tape a couple days after the pay-per-view. And then we see where they go from there. And remember, you're going to get a little bit of a reset button because, it's they want to treat this like a territory. It's not going to be the same crew. You're going to have the contract guys, the big contract guy, your Nick Aldis's, your James Storms, your people like that, Eli Drake, and then you have your temporary contract guys like Starks had the season 1 contract or whatever. I don't know if he's season 2. I have no idea. And then you have, your next level, which are just your pay by the date people on the show as well. They're going to change out a lot of those underneath people each season so that it feels like an old school territory where there's new faces cycling in and out. So I'm very curious to see who's at the tapings after the pay-per-view. That's almost as intriguing to me as the pay-per-view itself.
Mm-hmm. And they've been good shows. Like if you didn't watch the 70th anniversary show or the Crockett Cup or whatever, and you're reading this card and you're going, I don't know. Like they've been good shows. They're produced well. They're tightly, like I said, it's maybe not going to be an in-ring show that you're going to say, oh my God, like what an incredible in-ring show. Oh, it really reached these high highs or whatever. But it's going to be if those other shows are to be believed, and from what I can tell from this card or whatever, it's going to be just decent, smart pro wrestling for 2.5 hours or whatever, and that you can't ask for much more than that sometimes. So
they had some production gaffes on the first 2 pay-per-views, but I mean, they felt they were good. They weren't. They were good. They were decent shows. Those pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. I remember they were well reviewed, pretty much across the board. I mean, nobody really panned them for being horrible shows, other than some of the minor production issues they had, especially on the 70th anniversary show. That one had some rough production, at least until they got it ironed out. But yeah, this is a show that I will make time to watch. I followed the promotion, through the entire season, and I'm curious what they do here with it. Look, the pay-per-view lineup doesn't blow me away. I mean, it is a little bit disappointing from a couple different aspects. There's a couple little things I would have done different, but like you said, the other 2 pay-per-views. I think they had 2, right? The Croc Cup. Then had that pop-up show. I don't even know.
Yeah,
if that
the New Year's Clash or whatever. But I forget when. Yeah. I forget if that aired or whatnot. I didn't watch that one, so I can't speak to that one.
Yeah. So all right, we'll see.
All right, so we have 2 little topics we want to talk about first. I'm going to go with, we're running pretty low on time here, but I did want to touch on Warrior Wrestling, because Warrior Wrestling 7 is happening in Chicago this Friday. Also streaming on Fight TV as well, which I think is a huge news for this, because the Warrior Wrestling shows prior have not appeared on Fight. They haven't been able to watch live, but now you can watch this show live. And my God, is this card stacked. This is just an unbelievable show going on this Friday from Warrior Wrestling, the Chicago suburbs. If you're in the Chicago area, Chicago Heights is where that show is going to take place at Marian Catholic High School. But I mean, this I'm going to read over the card, and it's just like fucking unbelievable. So you have Kurt Angle, who is just going to address the crowd. He is not wrestling, but Kurt Angle will be there. You have the Rascals versus Chaos. And you're thinking, Chaos, huh? It's Amazing Red, Rocky Romero, and fucking Will Ospreay. Like,
yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You also have Ace Austin defending the Impact X Division title against Blake Christian, Templaro, I believe. I can't read this because, unfortunately, they didn't put their card on their website. They instead just have a bunch of tweets that I have to look at, and Carlos Romo, but I believe I have that right. Templaro, Carlos Romo, Blake Christian, and Ace Austin for the Impact X Division title. You have Aerostar versus Rey Horus versus Black Toros versus Gringo Loco versus Drago.
Yeah, 5-way.
These are 3 matches I've announced so far, by the way.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Holly Dead versus Savannah Stone. You have a Robert Anthony versus Jake Atlas. The aforementioned Lance Archer. Lance Archer coming to Chicago to work this show against Brian Pillman Jr. You have Minoru fucking Suzuki versus Tom Lawler.
Yeah. Bloodsport coming to Chicago.
Fuck, Jesus Christ. Michael Elgin versus Sam Adonis. Riley McGuire versus Danhausen. And Brian Cage versus El Phantasmo for the Warrior Wrestling Championship.
Rich, is this the best indie lineup of the year?
It might be, man. This is stacked. Minoru, Lance Archer, Elgin, Will Ospreay, Black Toros.
I mean, you've got people here who do not take indie bookings on a regular basis. It just goes to show, it's like, you can do a super indie show if you're willing to put out the money. Right. And Warrior Wrestling draws. And it all goes to their little charity. But they draw. You've been to the shows. They do big crowds. This idea that super indies are yesterday's news, right? and you can't make money doing super indies anymore, or you can't draw fans. Fans don't want super indies is the biggest load of shit, okay? PWG, even in its current state, fills up that Globe Theater every time.
Yeah.
They might not sell out in 20 seconds like they used to, but they fill up that Globe Theater every fucking time.
Have you seen the ticket prices they still charge? They still charge $80 for a ticket to get in.
Yes,
there. And they're going to sell it, and that ticket's going to get sold.
And they're not going to sell it out in 5 minutes like 2016, but they still sell it out. Warrior Wrestling does some of the biggest indie crowds in America doing super indie shows. Wrestle Circus, because they were poorly ran and they were overpaying everybody, went out of business, but they did the biggest crowds in Texas and some of the biggest indie crowds in America doing super indie shows. Rich, the issue with super indie isn't that fans don't want it. The issue with super indie is there isn't enough stars to do them. That's the issue with super indie shows. Super indie shows are still the biggest draws in indie wrestling. I hate to break it to everybody, but that is a fact because I just laid it out for you. The problem is there's not enough charismatic stars to book super indie shows unless you're willing to pay Will Ospreay enough money to roll out of bed and do something other than New Japan, which is very hard to do these days. I can only wonder what the fuck they're paying him.
God, yeah. This one might be a loss. I don't know about this one.
And he probably told them, I'm not doing a singles match because there's no other reason to put him in a 6-man. Okay? But you look at the talent on that show, and that show's going to draw. Rich, all those shows draw. They're right in your backyard. Yeah. You know it. Okay? So I am so sick of hearing that super indies are passé. It still draws the best if you're able to put them together. It's just harder than ever to put them together because the stars aren't there. And you have to go international and get stars from Japan and pay big money to fly in Minoru Suzuki and get all of these lucha stars from Mexico to come because there aren't enough American stars to do a super indie show. Don't you think Warrior Wrestling would save on all of those fucking flights if they can book a bunch of guys from the U.S.? Of course they would. They can't do it. But they're willing to put out the money to book a tremendous show like this, and they're going to draw. They're going to draw. What is the bill? You've been to their shows, over 1,000, right? They do 4 figures for these shows?
Sometimes. I mean, they basically can fill, it's an entire high school gymnasium, and it's a huge high school gymnasium, too. So they put a bunch of seating on the bleachers, like the big, giant high-riser bleachers that you would have for any, high school sporting event, but then also a shit ton on the floor as well. And they go, 15 to 20 deep on rows on the floor as well. And the time that I went, those were completely filled, and they've been filled, moving forward the last few shows as well. So yeah, it's going to do well. It's going to do great attendance. So.
And let me tell you, they'd probably lose money. They'd lose money again because they're dopes. But let me tell you, if Wrestle Circus ran a month from now, they'd fill the building too. Okay? The super indie model still works. There just isn't the talent to do it. That's the bottom line here. Okay? And meanwhile, super trendy fucking Twitter indie, okay, that gets all the buzz, draws 150 fans to see Redacted on top. Insert whatever fucking lame-ass fucking main eventer on the scene there is right now on top. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, just look at the facts. We just don't have enough stars to do these super indie shows. That's the issue. It's not that they don't work. This show's fucking loaded. Somehow this guy, we all thought this guy would be out of business 2 shows in.
I know. I interviewed him, that initial show, Steve Tortorelli is his name. And before he even ran that first show, we got an interview with him because I was like, this is because the Canuck Pro was the thing that we were all laughing about at the time. Canuck Pro was this fake show that just got built up, and they booked a bunch of dudes and said they were paying all these guys or whatever, and it was all just a ruse. It was all just fake, and that's kind of what we thought Warrior Wrestling was at first. So I interviewed this dude, and he was like, "Yeah, no, dude, I love wrestling, and I'm gonna book this because I really care, and I'm trying to raise money for the school, and I get people donate beer, and I get the lighting grid donated to me, and the ring people offer, and I get it for good deals, and I'm the principal of my school, so I don't have to book the venue, so it's free to book the entire venue." And when you look at it that way, and then you look at this card, you're like, yeah, you can do this. It's just, you got to be a little creative about it and got to think outside the box a little bit. And that's absolutely what he did. He's got a buddy that owns a bunch of lighting gear, so he borrows the lighting gear. He's got a connection on the ring, and he doesn't have to pay for the venue. So it's like, all right, well, that helps a lot. Then that's a lot of the costs right out of the way there, and now you can spend on wrestlers. So
listen, he's got a ton of advantages. There's no question. But my point here is just raw number of fans at the shows. And when you look, and it's the super indie shows that draw the most fans, whether the shows are making money or not, because Wrestle Circus obviously lost a ton of money. because they were poor business people. This guy's a better businessman because he's getting, like you said, the free venue and the lighting, and he cuts corners, and he's doing it for charity so people help him out. So he's making profits on these shows. But that I'm not really so much interested in. What I'm interested in is how many fans are paying tickets for the shows. And I don't want to hear that the super indie model doesn't work, because it's total bullshit. WrestleCon Super Show is, outside of maybe Janela Spring Break, it's close, but that show draws more fans than any show every WrestleMania weekend. The WrestleCon Super Show, right, which is a fucking super indie show. Okay, neck and neck with Janela. Maybe Janela does a few more, right? But you get the idea. Okay, and the Janela show is really a super indie show, just fucking on meth. That's it's a super indie show, fucking that happens to be drunk. So it's the same model. It's a bunch of fucking big names coming together for a show. So I don't know. That's the rant I wanted to go on when it came to
No, and you're right. And there's I see it all the time with AEW as well in Chicago, where it's like this company that just, rolls out of bed and gets 350 people at every one of their shows or whatever. And it's like, they don't get a buzz in kind of the Twitter sphere, but it's like they're doing great business still, as always. And they just announced that they're going to show up on Fight. Now the Windy City Classic coming up in December is going to be their first show on Fight, so they're now going to have live, which is really cool as well. So hopefully that'll increase the buzz a little bit. But yeah, it's people attribute buzz to business and all that sort of stuff, and it's a bubble thing, and that's a larger discussion for another day for sure. But that is Warrior Wrestling 7, and then we'll finish last, but certainly least, I guess, is Ring of Honor Final Battle. Joe. 10 matches. I'm going to go over all the matches real quick, and then we can kind of touch on any ones that really stick out to us. We got Dalton Castle and Joe Hendry versus Silas Young and Josh Woods. Rhett Titus versus Kenny King. Oh, man. All that Express explodes. I didn't know that. Hold on. I'm excited now.
Are you headed to Fight to order the show?
I can't believe that it took, 9 years, but All That Express explodes. I love it. Angelina Love versus Maria Maniac. That should be, or Maria Manic. That should be, she has a maniac.
Did you hear she broke up with Teddy Hart?
No, I saw a video that they're back together now.
Oh, okay.
It's a rise and a fall, Joe. You got to stick with it every minute of the day.
News moves fast in the world of Teddy Hart and Maria Manic.
Whatever her name is. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Things are going to go real quick, up and down real fast. But it looks like they're good. Yeah, there was a new video that says we were back together. Smiley face. So.
Well, listen, those crazy kids are clearly in love, and I'm glad they worked it out.
I cannot wait for the new videos in Teddy's basement or while they're driving. So that's You need to do Patreon content where you cover those.
I really do. I'm going to sit down and watch them all and take notes.
Because I don't know if I could sift through all of that. Like, I don't think I could handle it, but you are the man for that job for sure. So, Jeff Cobb versus Dan Maff. Why did they have Jeff Cobb? Like, what the fuck?
Jeff Cobb, man. What do you mean?
Fourth from the bottom. We can. Yeah. Dan Maff, whatever.
They signed Dan Maff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sweet. Villain Enterprises, Marty Scurll and Flip Gordon versus Bandito and Flamita. Potentially the final for Marty Scurll there. So
they signed Flamita too.
They did. Yeah, I saw that. That was interesting.
They're still throwing money around.
They are. So. It's just I don't know how many people want it anymore, but a few people do. So good for them.
It's an easy schedule, man. 3 dates a month.
It's not bad. World TV title, Shane Taylor defending his title against, they claim Dragon Lee, so he's not Ryu Lee in Ring of Honor. He's still Dragon Lee in Ring of Honor. So
yeah, it's a New Japan thing. Yeah.
Matt Taven versus Vincent, which is Balloon Guy's new name. Yeah, did
you see the big angle on ROH TV last week? Of course you did.
Of course, yeah. We don't have time to talk about it. I'd love to talk about it, but no, I mean, we're running out of time. So
I saw it, but
I try to set it up for my DVR and it never records, so I don't want to.
Taven had a secret attacker throughout the weeks, and Balloon Guy was there by his side, of course, and finally he called out the secret attacker, and the lights went out. Then Balloon Guy beat him up. He beat him up with an axe, Rich. But unlike Triple H with the sledgehammer, where he doesn't really hit you with the sledgehammer, he really hit him with the axe and busted him open hard way.
Okay, that's cool. All right.
They didn't bust him open hard way, but they did.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little brutal, but yeah.
He didn't insert an axe into his skull and kill him. What he did was he attacked him with the axe, and they did he bladed, I guess. Got it. The idea was he cut him with the axe, is what I'm getting at. So Balloon Guy is now Vincent, and he is a creepy. He is the Fiend without the lights and the creepy mask. Basically.
That's fine. That's good though. That's a good character then. So,
but he's human.
I'm into that. That's good.
But the balloons still rise. The balloons rose before he attacked.
Well, that's still that's a little bit of scariness. I like that. Mark Haskins versus Bully Ray in a street fight.
Yes.
Pay me to watch that. Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, the Briscoes defending the titles against Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham.
Yes.
That is indeed a match. And then the main event here, ROH World Championship, Roosh defending the title against PCO.
PCO wears a suit jacket and is basically just doing a Frankenstein 100% gimmick. Like, it's not even, remember he used to kind of act like Frankenstein?
Yeah, now he's just literally Frankenstein, right?
He's literally Frankenstein. He wears the suit jacket and he's like, "Ugh," and he like walks around. Yeah, it's just, he's totally changed. He's not the cool, kind of like cool, like thing, you know, a couple of years ago at WrestleMania weekend where he wrestled Walter and he was just kind of this dude who took cool bumps and was indestructible. Now he's literally Frankenstein.
Okay,
like, that's
so I want to do a little. I know we're a little over time, but I feel like this is a thing that we need to do here. Yeah. I'm going to read a selection of matches, Joe, that may or may not be Final Battle all-time main events. Okay.
Okay.
So these are all.
What's the game? What do I have to do?
There's no game. I'm just going to read the other Final Battle main events and tell you, just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here with Roosh versus PCO here. Bryan Danielson, Low Ki, Samoa Joe versus Steve Corino in a 4-way match for the number 1 contenders trophy. That's the first Final Battle. Final Battle 2003, Dan Maff, the aforementioned Dan Maff with the Prophecy and Christopher Daniels versus the Great Muta and Arashi. So, that was, hey. Samoa Joe versus Austin Aries for the ROH World title. Kenta versus Low Ki for the GHC Junior Heavyweight title. Bryan Danielson versus Homicide for the ROH World Championship. The Briscoe Brothers versus Age of the Fall for the ROH World Tag Team titles. Bryan Danielson versus Takeshi Morishima in a fight without honor. Austin Aries versus Tyler Black for the ROH World title. El Generico versus Kevin Steen in an unsanctioned fight without honor. Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards. Kevin Steen versus El Generico in Ladder War. Adam Cole versus Michael Elgin versus Jay Briscoe in a 3-way match for the world title. Jay Briscoe versus Adam Cole in a fight without honor. Jay Lethal versus AJ Styles. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. Cody versus Dalton Castle. Then we have SoCal Uncensored versus the Briscoes versus the Young Bucks in a Ladder War. And now we have Roosh versus PCO, the Frankenstein.
I mean, it's one of the best matches they can make right now. It's, I mean, in a vacuum, the card isn't even that bad.
It's not. It just doesn't feel.
It's the buzz surrounding the company.
Right.
Have you? When's the last time you watched the TV?
It's been because they it's kind of like a clip show now, right? They clip the matches.
This is what I was getting.
Because I tried to watch what week did I try to watch? Maybe about a month or so ago, and they clipped the matches, and I was like, I hate it. I can't do it.
The TV is so bad. It's just highlights and clips and vignettes and promos, and then maybe they give you one match, and like you said, a lot of the times it's like clipped. The match they give you is clipped. It's so bad. It's just not what televised wrestling needs to be, and I can't imagine that their viewership across the Sinclair stations hasn't dropped significantly because of it. Do they even do TV tapings? I don't think they do. I think they just film random matches.
Well, they are. It does say that the next night that they're doing a TV taping, Final Battle Fallout, but I don't know.
What's so fucking weird about that is they don't have a regular TV show. They give you like one match a week, sometimes two, and some of them are clips, and it's just all highlight packages and stuff.
It's weird. Yeah, I tried to watch it. Yeah, about a month or so ago, and I was like, yeah, this is weird. I don't like this at all. So, the good news is Crowbar is going to be there. So. TV taping, so they brought in
New Jersey indie legend.
They brought in Crowbar, and Hallowicked is going to be on the show as well. So,
well, where is that taping? It's got to be in like Philly.
That
or something.
Is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So,
well, if you're using those guys, I mean, Crowbar has like a real job and a life. He's not going to fly to fucking Sheboygan to fucking do ROH TV. So I figured that had to be, somewhere near. South Jersey. Same thing. Hallowicked, same deal, right? Isn't he like...
Right. Yeah, I think he's Philly born and bred and has been there forever.
Will not wrestle full-time because he, has a real job or something. So, same kind of deal. Or is that Frightmare? One or the other. One of those.
I guess it's good as mine.
Yeah, no, one of them supposedly turns down bookings because he's.
I thought it was Hallowicked that usually doesn't do it, but I could be wrong. You're probably right on
it's one or the other.
One or the other for sure. All right, so we are out of time. We're desperately out of time here. So that is it here on this episode of the Voice Wrestling Flagship. Of course, voicewrestling.com/Patreon for even more Joe and Rich. voicewrestling.com/Patreon. Once again, we'll tell you that. At Voices Wrestling on Twitter. voicewrestling.com/Discord to join our Discord and chat with us about these shows and everything else going on. And that's it for Joe and Rich. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Voice Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Take care.